Yo, what a day. We got that footage from the Memphis cops, the horrific video of 5 officers raining punches on Tyre Nichols as he screams out, "Mom, Mom," before dying in the hospital after cardiac arrest and kidney failure. And the video's pretty brutal. You know, I haven't seen all the different angles, but I see these cops holding a guy with his hands behind his back, and they're just going at his face like crazy. It's a brutal video. So protests have already begun. People are concerned about violent riots, even though they already fired and arrested the cops involved. They're still going out and protesting. I don't know what they're protesting for, because they you got what you wanted. I mean, you wanted the cops brought to justice. I mean, they're going to go to jail probably. We'll see. And then we got the Pelosi footage getting released, and I've got I'll call it a correction. I said that I thought it was likely in my 4 p.m. segment that this may be a drug deal gone wrong. I'm not saying I know for a fact. I'm just saying it sounds like it might make more sense. And I missed that they released the backdoor footage of him smashing the windows out. I still think there's a lot of questions that need to be asked about how weird this video is. Like why Paul Pelosi is holding a drink as the door opens, why he doesn't then go out to the cops, why he then grabs the hammer, but doesn't drop his drink to grab the hammer. It's a very weird thing. Very, very weird. The 911 call is weird. A lot of people are saying, guys, it's just de-escalation. He was trying to stop a crazy crackhead from attacking him. Maybe. But I do kind of feel like saying DePape is crazy is a weird catch-all for all of the unexplainable things that we think are weird, right? It's just like, oh, the reason why he was holding that glass, he was de-escalating because DePape's crazy. The reason DePape was there, crazy. The reason DePape's sitting with him, letting him call 911, crazy. I just find that kind of weird. So we'll talk about that. Plus, we got a bunch of other stories. Before we get started, my friends, head over to Timcast.com, become a member to support our work. Click that Join Us button. As a member, you are funding the operation that is Timcast. Your membership helps this show exist, our other shows, and all the work we do exist. And you'll also get access to members-only shows Monday through Thursday at 11 p.m., a massive library of content. Go check it out. It's really great stuff. We had a bunch of awesome guests this week. And I want to just shout out the event you can see right here in Austin. Sold out. 2 shout-outs. It's gone. Wow. Sold out. I can't believe it. I mean, I guess I can believe it. We got Alex Jones, Blair White, Luke Rutkowski, Alex Stein, Michael Mouse. This is going to be one awesome event. And there were only 300 tickets to begin with, so those sold out in like 2 days. Yeah, totally. Man. But it's going to be fun. Maybe we'll figure out a way to do similar things more so that in different, it's hard to travel. It's hard to set up the show on stage and do all this stuff. But thank you to everybody who bought tickets. So don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends. Joining us tonight to talk about this and so much more is Aidan Kearney.
What's happening, Tim? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, who are you?
So my name is Aidan Kearney, although they just call me Turtle Boy around New England. I run a media entity called Turtle Boy Daily News. We've broken hundreds of stories that the mainstream media won't touch because we go after powerful people that the rest of the media is afraid to go after. But for that reason, I've been deplatformed. I've had over 50 Facebook pages taken down. I've been banned from Twitter for 2 years. I can't use PayPal, GoFundMe, or Venmo. I've been sued dozens of times, undefeated in court, like to point that out, including a most recent Boston City councilor is currently suing me for writing about her alleged drinking and driving incident. So basically, this is what I do. When the mainstream media does cover our stories, frequently they like to steal it without attribution. In particular, Andy No seems to have a thing for my content. Oh, wow. And so that's basically what I do.
Well, right on. Thanks for joining us. Should be interesting. We also got Hannah Claire hanging out.
Hi, I'm Hannah Claire. I'm a writer for Timcast.com.
Hey, hi, Hannah.
Hi.
Claire. Not Hannah. Oh, no. Thanks for having me. I want to echo something James O'Keefe said last night in a Twitter space that he hosted after IRL, late up until midnight Eastern, that we are the media now. We are the mainstream media. And this legacy stuff, they're not the mainstream anymore. It's fed to people via television. No one cares. I mean, it's very, very low. Compared to stuff like this, compared to getting 20 million views on the Veritas video yesterday, that is the mainstream in the consciousness, and I'm happy to be a part of it. And I wanted to mention 2 things before we get started. One, I spent the last few days with Bucko the cat, Mr. Bocus, and we traveled across country to a stem cell clinic that was able to harvest some of his fat cells. They thought they didn't get enough fat. He called me today and told me, your cat's a rock star. Somehow out of 6 grams of fat, they got as many stem cells out of what they could get out of 150 grams of fat from a dog. And he was shocked, almost in shock at how well Bucko did. Thank you, Bucko, for keeping positive. I don't know if there's some sort of entanglement going on and your cells over there are doing well because you're doing well over here. Or
No, it's all the people who have watched and have prayed for Mr. Bocus.
It really cellular life is attuned to the vibration of your soul. So keep it up. And
I just want to say, like, I have to wonder about that. You know, we repeatedly talk on the show about our cat, Mr. Bocus, and how he's sick and he doesn't have much time to live. And now the doctor's saying it's a miracle we were able to get enough stem cells out of. He has almost no fat, and he was able to pull it off. I wonder if it's all the people who have been praying for Mr.
I think
Bocus.
it's something. He didn't say miracle. Doctors,
It's a miracle.
Yeah, doctors maybe stay a little more scientific. And he pointed out that it was omental fat from bucko, whereas the 150 grams of the dog was falciform fat. So they're different kinds of fat too, which might have something to do with it. But he was still taken aback and very happy about it. And then secondly, you know I love graphene, so I put my money where my mouth is, and I got a shirt made out of graphene.
He's literally
What?
wearing
The
it.
shirt and the pants, if you can see, are made out of 90% graphene woven polyester. The graphene is infused with the polyester, and then it's 10% spandex, and it feels cool.
We've got to make Ian's graphene dark
Let's
roast.
freaking do it, man, because it's like heat absorbent, but it's also cool to the touch. I like it.
Yeah.
Everyone's saying you need a graphene dark roast for the coffee company when we release it.
Yeah.
We'll have to do it.
Get the hexagons on the package.
Maybe we'll do like an espresso roast, and it'll be like Ian's graphene espresso.
I love
blend.
it. I'm in.
All right, we got Serge pressing the buttons.
Yo, what's up, guys? Glad to have you back, Ian. It's
Thank
been
you,
fun.
Serge.
Been fun without you, but we're really missing you out here.
Thanks, homie.
Anyways, let's get started.
All right, here's the first story we got from the Daily Mail. Breaking news: Memphis cops release horrific video. 5 officers raining punches and kicks down on Tyre Nichols. Is that how you pronounce it? Tyre Nichols? I was calling him Tyre Nichols before.
I couldn't tell.
I think it's
was
Tyre
Tyre.
Nichols.
I think
Yeah,
it's spelling.
seems like Tyre.
Because like if it was Tyre, I think it'd be like 2 E's, but I'm not trying to get his name wrong. Let's say Tyre. As he screams out "Mom, Mom" before dying in hospital after cardiac arrest and kidney failure. So they got a bunch of different angles. They pepper spray him. They pin him on the ground. There's surveillance footage where he's got his hands behind his back. They're holding, I think they've cuffed him at this point, right?
Yeah, I think so.
And then the cop just walks up and just does full boom,
Haymakers.
boom, just starts wailing. You see him going back and forth. Yo,
It's tough to watch.
yeah, it's very tough to watch. And they had the chief of police came out earlier and said it's as bad or worse than Rodney King. And so I'm kind of just like, yo, do they want people to riot tonight?
Why would she say that?
Because they want the riots.
'Cause they want
They've been
that,
hyping it up all week, and then she's like, we wanted to release the footage on a Friday when no one was in school or at work, so it wouldn't be disruptive. It's just like, so
No.
you want to make sure everyone is
That's
available to
not why.
protest, to
Yeah,
riot?
Exactly.
They did the Mike Brown non-indictment announcement on a Friday night too, if I recall. It's like right
Yeah.
at this exact time.
It's like they want people to riot.
Yeah.
I think they do. There was that the firebomber, the Antifa firebomber in New York, 1 year in prison. The judge even praised the dude.
Yeah.
The judge was like, "You're a good guy, you know. You've done a lot of great things. You're gonna go away for a year." And it's just like this guy firebombed a police vehicle, and him and his friend were giving out firebombs, and 1 year. Meanwhile, some like bumbling bumpkin walks into the Capitol building confused, and you're like 20 years in prison. I'm exaggerating, by the way, but like, you know, they
Viking Man got 4. That's a good
Who
one.
did?
Viking Man got 4.
Oh, right. It's
Yeah.
like, here's a guy who's just like doofing about. He didn't do anything.
Yeah.
He just trespass, 4 years in prison. Meanwhile, firebomber, welcome to America. We can have I mean, we were talking about this the other day, like, are we in for another summer of love? It's like, it's still winter, man. I'm kind of feeling like summer of love's coming.
Seems like it.
I could go for an actual summer of love at this point. How about you guys?
What does that mean?
Like where we actually love each other again, try and take care of each other. I mean, I'm not down with violence though. You break something, you buy it, man. You wreck somebody's house, you're threatening their livelihood and their life at that point.
We talked about this the other day. I don't know if we talked about it on the show, but we were talking about how property rights are life rights. Like the root of property rights is your ability to live safely and securely. That's why you can own land, and you can farm and grow food. If you were like, I am going to work all year to grow food, and then some communists show up and they're like, it's not yours, it's ours. Well, then nobody has security.
And if they kick you out of your house, if they burn your house down, you go out and it's cold outside, you'll die from hypothermia. Like there's no joke. Your home is is the central nexus of your livelihood.
Now, I did the unthinkable today. I watched a lot of MSNBC and CNN just to kind of see.
You gotta
like,
check
did you-
in, see
just to
what's up.
see what everyone
Did you
else the other
vomit?
half is what. Well, it's like all they're talking about is this one person and him dying, and it's almost like they're just feeding into it. They're making this seem like this is the biggest story in the country, when in fact it's one of thousands of murders that happen every month in this country. Like that's what, like, if this worst case scenario, these cops did it, they murdered them. Like you said,
I think they did.
They're already in jail.
Like these videos
what else do you want besides them getting arrested? Like, what are you protesting for? Protesting is supposed to have
Abolish
an end
police.
goal. That's exactly what it is. But
Right.
they're not saying that. But that, like, so when Biden gets out there and he actually said, like, we want you to protest peacefully. Why are you protesting at all? Protesting what? They were already arrested. They're in jail. What else do you want? But
abolish the police.
Exactly.
This is it. They know that abolish the police is unpopular, but that's really what they want.
Mm-hmm.
You got a video. I got to say, like, I watched the surveillance footage, and I'm just like, yeah, there's no justification for having a guy in cuffs who's just standing there, and then you start wailing on his face.
Yeah.
Oh, it was bad. It was
Yeah.
bad. Yeah, it was uncomfortable.
I haven't seen the video. Is it too?
It seemed
bad?
personal.
Too graphic. I don't think we can play it on YouTube.
What? So
It's-
was he
it-
saying something, and then
you
they
can't
came up
hear-
behind him and they're like, "You said too much," kind of thing.
No, like he was like
He was
dizzy
already
and
dizzy
like
and out of it.
disoriented, and they just kept hitting him. Like,
Yeah.
and it seemed almost personal, like
Yeah.
very personal. Like I'm sure there's more to it.
Well,
And he
somebody-
didn't deserve it. Don't get me wrong, but it seemed like either the cop has roid issues or something wrong with that guy.
Well, I'll just say, I probably shouldn't say it, but I want to.
You talking about the super chat?
The super chat where someone
Yeah.
said there's a rumor that he was banging a dude's wife or something like that.
Yeah.
Oh, that it was personal.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
but I only say that because you said it looked like it was personal, and I felt the exact same way. Like when they got the guy subdued, and then the dude walks up and just winds up and goes boom, boom.
Yeah.
I'm like, does he know that guy?
Right.
Because that's not all the videos we've seen of cops when they're like detaining or arresting someone, you can tell what they're doing and why they're doing it. Like a
Right.
lot of these videos are stop resisting, and then they start hitting him and punching him in the head. But that's like they call it pain compliance. This looks like revenge.
Yeah, it's like that one guy in particular. It's not like all the cops are doing it.
Yep.
He looked like in Mortal Kombat when it's like finish him.
Yeah, it really
that's what he
does.
looked like. And it
Yeah.
was
So
like,
that one cop was the one who kept.
Yeah, it was
going
only
after-
the one cop, and I know there was one. I don't know if there was also a part of it where they're hitting with the nightstick. I don't know if that was like the same cop or
But
whatever.
you know,
but
it could be that this rumor emerges because
Because of that.
people are like, does this guy
Right.
know him?
yeah,
You know.
it's a good point.
they're trying to fill in the gaps. I mean,
Yeah,
Memphis
there's gotta
is
be
like
something.
one of the most violent cities in the country, and so if we were trying to have a hotbed for cultivating an anti-police sentiment, it might be one of the places to do so, because I'm sure there are a lot of people there who feel as though the justice system is against them and, you know, hurts everyone they know. I think it's the obvious parallels you're going to see are that, you know, this man was stopped. It started as a traffic stop, and there are cities like Philadelphia that have tried to do away. They try to get rid of any chance of having a traffic stop to avoid this kind of confrontation or a confrontation escalating. The video is, I mean, I think the video speaks for itself, but obviously if we find out later that there is some sort of social or relationship, some sort of connection between the men, like, I don't think it makes it better. I think it probably speaks to more systematic issues
What-
in Memphis.
Yeah, it could even indicate like premeditation. If the guy knows the guy and he sees him across and he walks towards him to hit him, that's very different than he's on him and then he starts hitting him out of defense or something.
It's just hard to
I don't think that's true that the guy was banging his wife. I think it just sounds sensational.
it was a super chat. So
yeah,
It's on the
Pretty
internet,
official.
therefore it's true, right?
Must have some value if it's on the internet.
I don't know. Maybe we should Google it.
they paid to say that. So
Maybe I just Google it. I'll see.
So then what happened? These 5 cops are in jail right now? Because this is like the
They were
first I've heard
They
of this.
all
last
turned
night?
themselves in, and they've been arrested, but I think they all posted bond, last I read.
were they actually?
were
fired?
they out?
I think they're out. But then again, I wonder where they are right now, because it sounds like Memphis is not the place to be.
Is there riots right now?
I mean, I don't know about right now, but it seems like there's a chance that tonight is a night for it.
Yeah, I mean, Kellen was watching footage. I don't know where he was watching, but there's definitely people out on the streets
There
demonstrating.
are
I know they-
demonstrations, but
yeah.
I don't know if it's escalated.
Oh yeah, yeah. This there's like a YouTube video from a day ago. Was Tyre Nichols having an affair with one of the officers' wives?
Oh boy.
Oh,
And they found him and they were like, that's
So
the guy.
I typed in. So I picked up Google. I typed in Tyre Nichols, and it autofilled it affair Reddit, and I was like, whoa, what? So I clicked it, and it just gave me a bunch of Reddit posts about the story. So I got rid of Reddit. So it says Tyre Nichols affair, and there's a video where a guy's saying it from yesterday. So maybe it was someone just speculating. I don't know. Because
Yeah.
people are like, why would the cops do this? Is the cop just a murderer, and he was just feeling like killing a guy, or was there a reason for it?
It's pretty rare. I think most murder, I don't know, I don't actually have the data to back this up. Most murder is between people that know each other. Is that true?
And I think a lot of the cops are just they see the mental aspect of being a cop. Like they see dead bodies all the time. Like they come across a car accident, they're the first to see a dead body. They have to call people's loved ones. These people, a lot of police, I think, are suffering from mental health issues, and they're messed up in the head. What I saw in that video, I mean, that man has serious issues, like anger issues. He's probably seen a lot of things. I mean, Memphis is a dangerous city. He's working in a lot of dangerous areas. And I'm not justifying anything he did. Obviously, he needs to be held responsible for that. But what you saw in that video is not normal anger. An accountant doesn't have that kind of anger in them. Somebody that actually sees crazy shit on a daily basis, like that's what I saw in that video.
Mm-hmm. So what's your prescription? Are we going to get a summer of love?
Oh yeah, we're gonna. I mean, well, luckily it's winter, so we got that going.
I mean, well, look. This stuff's already starting in January. I mean, normally we wait until the springtime when people start coming out, but people are protesting in winter, which, you know, it's almost like the groundhog see his shadow. Like, do the protesters come out in winter? Because if they do, then they're heated up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
a lot of it, I think, is desperation with this economic downturn. We need some sort of like industrial revival or revolution in this country.
But like, why do we know? But like, so one guy in Memphis was murdered, right? So, but people are murdered across the country on a daily basis, and this is what annoys me about this: is that this is what the media and politicians, Democratic politicians, tell us is important. This is the biggest story. Mm-hmm. But it's really not, because people get murdered every day in this country. In Massachusetts the other day, I don't know if you guys heard about this, one of the most horrible stories I've ever heard. A mother, a nurse, a delivery nurse at Mass General Hospital, murdered her 3 children.
I saw the story.
And then tried to kill herself by jumping out of the window. To me, that is so much of a bigger story than this, because the problem that caused her to do that is mental health, and that isn't something that we are not addressing.
But you don't protest that,
right? But why aren't you never hear calls to let's do something about the mental health system. Here's my plan to fix the mental health system. So many people are dying in this country every year because of mental health. That's an actual problem that is a solution that can be fixed. Whereas, what are these people trying to fix? They're already in jail. There's not a problem to be fixed here. 5 bad cops did something bad and they're being held responsible.
They look at the police and say this is going to keep happening so long as we have a police department. And with the woman killing her kids, people are going to be like, what should we do?
Yeah, you make a good point. A lot of the mass shootings are people that are on some sort of psychoactive drug.
And what's the first thing they try to do after
they'll try and ban guns or take away guns instead of going with the pharmaceutical companies that are profiting off of shoving drugs down people's throats instead of fixing their diets. And it's like the thing about demonizing police is it stresses out the people that are on the police force. And then when they're out there, they're more stressed, and then they become more likely to get agitated on the job. So
or fearful, resulting in an escalation of force.
Right. Absolutely. You know, hating is not going to make these people fight less.
Right.
I think they see defund the police as like a very simple solution, right? Cops are killing people. If we get rid of them, those are gone. And I think it becomes harder to talk about mental health. Like I think you're totally right. Mental health should be a bigger push in this country. And in fact, when you start talking, it made me think of there's a wave of different families over the Christmas time who were all involved in murder suicides, right? Like these very large families. I think there were 2 in Utah, but mental health is more complicated, right? You mentioned diet. We could talk about medication. We could talk about environmental stress. Like it's much harder to pinpoint a fix on one thing. Whereas if I say, well, if cops killed someone, we should just get rid of all cops, it becomes much easier for people to all jump on board. It's not that I advocate for that solution. It's just that it markets itself better. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so even though it's misdirected, I think it's much easier to push people towards that cause or that effort.
Now, I just want to point out, all of these cops that got arrested, they were all black. So does that remove the racial component?
No. Did you read Van Jones today?
What did he say?
Oh, he said that it's internalized white supremacy. Right. You got to see the headline. I screenshot it somewhere. You would think it's satire, but it's actually real life.
I think it was The Guardian had one. I think The Guardian.
Here's the headline then. Opinion: the police who killed Tyre Nichols were black, but they still might have been driven by racism.
Oh, come on, man.
CNN.
I know, I got it right here. And I'm trying to be can we point out that the protesters are angry with the policing system and it's not just a race thing? And nope, they can't help it.
They can't.
They're pulling a Clayton Bigsby. It's a Dave Chappelle Clayton Bigsby.
Yeah, literally.
How do they not laugh?
I was kidding about it earlier.
The guy writing that headline,
they're trying to stay on message.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
We had the Hoteps here. Hotep Jesus, Uncle Hotep, Canon Hotep. Mm-hmm. These are 3 adult black males, and I just pointed out to him, I was like, it's funny, is that because of your guys' politics, you're all white supremacists, But Serge over here is African American because he's from South Africa.
Quite literally.
It's just like the logic. Yeah, right. Like Elon.
Exactly.
Luke Rudkowski's Polish,
Person of color.
so that makes him a person of color.
How come?
Slavs are considered people of color.
How about, I always wonder about Portuguese.
According
Do they
to
count?
wokeness, because the woke don't believe white means your skin color, it means political like dominant force or something. And because Ukrainians, Polish people or whatever, and like Romanians are in like a worse off economic position,
Right.
the blonde hair, blue-eyed Luke Rudkowski, according to the Coalition for Communities of Color, they say he is a person of color.
Now I see a through line here
And
because
they say Hotep Jesus, a black man, is a white supremacist.
I think that
Candace Owens.
whiteness,
It's making sense.
whiteness and the patriarchy are kind of hand in hand. I do believe it comes from the Roman slave state. It was essentially the Romans were racist, genocidal maniacs that would conquer and murder and enslave other people that weren't pure blood Roman. They were like the Nazis of the time. If the
it wasn't
Nazis
just
had
them.
won and conquered the half the planet.
Yeah, it wasn't just them.
It wasn't just the Romans, but
But
the
it was
Roman
them, yeah.
patriarchy, the church that they created, has done such damage, and the amount of slavery that they imposed on people, and it still is like bled through into our society. We have like white Roman heritage, but it's not the skin color. That's where
Right.
that's where
Exactly.
it starts to get blurry. We got to look past the skin color and look at the actual patriarchy. We even call ourselves patriots. Like that's a male dominant thing. They say God is a man. That's male dominant crap. It doesn't have to be like that.
You know, he's going full feminist.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't think I agree with you.
You don't have to. Well,
No, it's okay.
tell me why.
I think part of this, I think it's easy to say like, oh, it's one group that had this terrible system, but like, let's remember that when the Romans had slaves, so did tons of other
Right.
people, right?
Exactly.
Like we are saying that, oh, because we are tied to Romans and they had slavery, therefore this through line is there. But that's not true because you'd have to say it for all civilizations, right? And every descendant of a culture that had slave would in that idea have the same fault, right? I think when we talk about patriarchal culture, it becomes easy to again say that there is one problem, right? That men are too aggressive and that men don't do this and whatever. And I think that's not true personally, right? I think that there are faults with some patriot dominated societies, but I don't think being tied to your heritage, and typically heritage is traced through the masculine line of your family, is bad, right? I think we have a better understanding of our history, and again, typically that's tied through the male dominated line. You have a way of looking at the faults in your culture, right? It becomes more difficult to reflect on yourself when you are divorced from your heritage. Again,
we got
to
read some of this. So this is from Van Jones on CNN. The police who killed Tyre Nichols were black, but they might still have been driven by racism. It's just what?
And he's the sane one at CNN. He's the one that occasionally you're like,
Yeah.
oh, Van Jones said something I agree with.
He writes,
occasionally.
3 decades ago, when 4 white LA police officers were videotaped beating Rodney King, the public outcry was heard around the world. In fact, I got arrested for the first time in my life during protests that followed, and I subsequently dedicated my career as a lawyer to helping to sue rogue cops, close prisons, and reform the criminal justice system. What happened to King was horrifying, he then goes on to mention, but at least he survived. Tyre Nichols did not. Yada yada. 5 former Memphis police officers fired for their alleged actions during Nichols' arrest, alleged, and there's a video of it, have now been indicted. I was in law enforcement during the Rodney King incidents as a chief. By all accounts, he was good. How do we explain Nichols' horrific killing alleged at the hands of police who looked like him? From the King beating to the murder nearly 3 years ago of George Floyd, blah, 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 blah,
How do we explain it? It's extremely
Black
common.
people are not immune to anti-black messages. One of the sad facts about anti-black racism is that black people ourselves are not immune to its pernicious effects. At this point, I just want to give a round of applause to Van Jones for this sophistry at coming up with a reason why these black cops were actually anti-black racists for beating up another black man.
It's not just him, though. It's like Jameel Hill. Like, this was a common take on Twitter today about this. Like, as soon as they saw that picture where all 5 cops are black, you're like, well, now we got to go to plan B. Like, the original plan was racism. We're like, well, now we're going to have to explain this a little more.
But look what they did with Zimmerman. Remember?
Right.
They were like a white man. It's like Zimmerman's he's Hispanic. I don't know if he's Mexican.
He's
Hispanic.
Cuban, I think.
Cuban. There you
Cuban.
go. He's and they were like, well, he's a white Hispanic. And you're like,
Yeah,
what does that
right.
mean? Are you kidding me?
So
Come on, man.
what I'm getting is Van Jones is suggesting that these dudes, these 5 cops, were serving the white master and doing its bidding.
Exactly.
But it's just it's not a white and black thing. This is what drives me nuts, man. Yeah, there are corporate overlords. There are people with power, but I mean, maybe I'm blind and that there really is a racial thing. Like annihilated
You're
the
not.
Native Americans.
Bro,
They were like, they're
bro.
savages. They didn't even consider them human. Like, they were just killing anything that wasn't white or whatever at the time. They had black slaves
came
and they
so
were
much
killing the
later.
red.
Listen. There's a reason why these things emerge in human civilization. You live in a small village of 100 people. Everybody's orange. You know that when you see a person and they're orange, you're like, oh, they probably live in my village. I can trust that. It feels safe. 100 miles away, there's a village where everybody's green. One day you come across a green person, you're like, that I've never seen that person before. I don't know who that is. They're not from my village. That's a threat. That's dangerous. So over time, as humans start coming closer and closer together, we start living with people with different backgrounds, different heights, different skin colors. We start to go like, oh, that didn't matter at all. We're now humans. And so over time, we start to actually move away from this, from a lot of this. In the United States and a bunch of other countries, they don't. So you end up with, yes, race is often an issue. Even in the United States, people racially profile. Even Mike Bloomberg went on about how he does this. And then you end up with, like, I can understand to a certain degree what Van Jones is saying, but they're taking it in a direction that I think is disingenuous. There have been black cops who, on numerous occasions, have been seen arresting and beating young black men. And then the woke activists try and claim, like, oh, the police did this, and it's white supremacy and it's racist. And then when you point out, like, hey, I don't think the race was the issue if the cops themselves were black. I think it's these guys are in a high crime neighborhood.
Yeah.
They're black. The people who live there are black, and the cops are concerned about the level of crime. I don't think the black cop is looking at the black kid and being like, he looks like me. Like, what's he thinking? Therefore, this guy's more dangerous.
Yeah.
No, I think what it is it doesn't matter if you're white. It doesn't matter if you're black. It matters if they're like, hey, we're sending you to a crime scene. And you're like, okay. Now you're going to be on edge and be like, I'm in a dangerous neighborhood.
I feel like, what you're saying makes me think of all of the diversity and equity recruitment. Like, there are a lot of police stations or, police departments across the country that specifically were like, we want to make sure our force represents the people that they're policing, right? They are of the same racial makeup. They are related to the community. They have a better way to relate to them. Like, I don't know if Memphis has this policy in place, but if they do, does this tell us that, like, that doesn't matter, that people who are prone to be cruel and violent will do it no matter who they're looking at?
Imagine if these guys were like diversity hires. Like, imagine that. Like, like this is part of the diversity, equity, and inclusion.
But
they hire these guys.
But maybe, I remember there was a lawsuit, I think it was out of New York, where they purposefully hire stupid people to be cops. And they said it's because they hire smart people, they get bored, they quit. And that's their excuse. But you hire people of low quality, you're going to get low quality output.
Interesting.
Do you guys
People that won't
remember?
question.
I'm just totally going to bring this up. Do you remember when Ben and Jerry's tweeted about what is it called, the 1350?
They tweet a lot of stupid things. It's hard to
So
keep track.
this is the point I'm trying to make. There are a bunch of people who, they were even posting this the other day when we were talking about with Nuance Bro, crime in Democrat cities, and he mentioned the racial disparity in crime and all that stuff. And I'm like, I think there's a lot to do with history, poverty, and then we look at the surface level, or I shouldn't say we, but a lot of people, and they're like, hey, I notice there's a lot of crime in this community, and they tend to be this race or that race, and it's also like, yeah, but there's a lot more context there that we need to bring up. I'm not saying race plays no issue or anything. I'm just saying historical, like slavery, generational wealth, poverty, lack of education, these things play a much, much bigger role, in my opinion, than anything else. But Ben and Jerry's, and this is a really important point, because the woke people do this, and that's exactly what this is. Ben and Jerry's posted on Twitter something like, the African-American community is only 13% of the U.S. population, but they comprise something like, 50% of prison inmates, yada, yada.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's the same meme that you'll see, people post on the internet that, I don't want to say every single person who posts that is a racist, but are associated with being the right or racist. The left believes the exact same thing. Yeah. The left wants segregation. The left is blaming racism, anti-blackness on why black cops attacked a black man, because they can't help but view the entire world through the lens of race. It's the woke law of projection. You have a white liberal who is extremely racist, who then says, you know what? You're racist too. And you're like, me? I'm not racist. And they're like, yes, you are. The reason they're saying that is because they think everyone must think the same thing they do. They can't imagine that other people have different beliefs.
It's a cult.
So everybody projects. Everybody thinks the way I view the world is the way everyone else views the world. No, I shouldn't say everybody. There's a lot of people who understand that they don't, probably tend to watch shows like this or Crowder or 6XM or even Barnes, like to be on the opposite side of the wokeness. But these woke people very much so are racist and then project thinking, if I think this way, so must everyone else. Then they go to you and tell you you're racist, and no matter what you say, they won't believe you because you must think what
Well, if you
think.
don't, that's White Fragility. Best-selling
Exactly.
book. That's literally what that book is based on.
So you
It's
end
the
up
deal, like-
with Van Jones writing the only explanation as to why 5 black men beat another black man was because of white supremacy, when it's just like, maybe it's because they're cops, maybe it's because they have a short fuse because of the things they witness all day, every day, and they were angry, and it's nothing to do with the race of these men because they were all black. I'm sick of everything having to be someone's race. Like, look, I'll put it this way. Sometimes it is race. Sometimes it is a white cop hating a black person. Sometimes it's a black cop hating an Asian person. Who knows? I'm just saying, it annoys me that woke people especially, but others as well, immediately assume the cause of and the correlation is, well, it was the race. And I'm like, dude, come on, man.
Yeah.
For all we know, this guy was banging dude's wife.
Well,
okay?
Jameel Hill said the silent part out loud. This is what she said, what you were saying about the police. I need so many people to understand this regarding Tyre Nichols. Several of the police officers who murdered Freddie Gray were black. The entire system of policing is based on white supremacist violence.
They just gotta keep making it up.
But that
It just
that's,
proves
like
it's
they're trying to. She's saying get rid of the police. That's what she said.
It's amazing. It's someone walking up to you and saying, listen, the sky is pink. And you go, I'm looking up and the sky is blue. Actually, that's because you've got a lens distortion perspective. And that proves actually the sky is pink. No, I can see it, dude. When you come out and you say, did you know that the cops who killed Freddie Gray, some of them were also black? I'm like, so that basically disproves your whole narrative. No, it actually proves it.
They can't lose. It's brilliant. They got quite the scam going.
I'd love to. I wish I had that kind of societal power to say something that proves the opposite proves the opposite. Just be at a casino and it's like, it's like, hit me, 25. Actually, they changed the rules. Jacks are now 4. Oh, you have 21. I keep winning.
It reminds me, wasn't there a movie where a guy was like the only one in the world who knew how to lie?
Yeah, Ricky Gervais.
Yeah.
I like that movie a lot. That movie's
Never seen
good.
it.
What's that one
What's
called?
called
The Invention of Lying.
Yeah.
So he's broke. So it's a world where no one can lie, and then he's broke. He can't pay his rent. He's going to get evicted, and then he goes to the bank, and then it he's like, I need to withdraw money, and they're like, I'm sorry, you don't have you only have a certain amount of money in your bank account. Then it zooms into his brain and it shows like a neuron fire, and then he goes, no, I have $800 in my account, and she goes, that's strange. It doesn't say that. Must be a mistake. Okay, I'll withdraw that money for you because there's no lying. So it's like, and then she gives him the money, and he's like, whoa. Yeah. And then he basically becomes like king of the world because he can get.
Is it funny? He's funny.
It's I think it's a great movie.
He's hilarious.
It's like a movie that makes you think, kind of, but it is funny. Movies in this universe are people sitting in chairs reading history because there's no fiction. So then he starts writing fiction, and people are like watching these movies all excited, thinking it's real.
It's kind of like historically, like through the eons, that the lying, deceitful one, monkey or whoever in the culture of our great ancestors were like the ones that were able to weasel their way into power by hiding the food so that the other ones couldn't find their food, and they're like, where's our food? Then they starve, and he's like, ha ha ha. And so it's in our genetics that you need to deceive to get into power. But what we want is an honest leader, but you need a strong society to support an honest leader, or the leader will just be taken advantage of and destroyed by evil and subterfuge. It's so easy to burn down what's functional, but it's so challenging to create it,
to build up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we're on a path to create an honest leader right now, it seems like.
Think about building a machine and all of the fine parts that go in it, and then someone can just take a piece of bubble gum and throw it right in, the whole machine breaks. True. And then you're like, I can't get that bubble gum out. Something that's so stupid and easy to make, some bubble gum, some tree sap, some rubber, destroys, 50 years of your work. Think about like how you could gum up a car. Think about how you could pour sugar or some other garbage into the tank. It's like so easy to tear a machine down. It's so hard to build it.
And it's easy to lie about machines when they're not functioning, because like it can cause panic. If you're honest about the mishaps and the dangers of society, people can if you don't understand the danger, but you're honest about it, that's scary. Like, hey, there's a problem I don't have a solution for. And that can cause panic, which can cause the dissolution of the system. So you're better off historically, lying about it and being like, everything's fine. Close your eyes. Everything's fine. And if it burns, it burns. There's no one there to come after me for lying. But I think now, well, one, we have the tools like the internet where we can solve these problems. Climate change, we can withdraw the carbon, turn it into graphene. We can regrow the plankton in the ocean with iron fertilization. We can regrow the coral reefs with cultural microfragmentation of coral, where you break it into a bunch of pieces and it all grows at once together. We can build space elevators and elevate. We can colonize. There are solutions, but it's a matter of organizing them and communicating them calmly. And I think if we can do that, we won't need to lie to each other.
Well, and everyone has to agree that those things are worth doing, right? Like if you have a small group of people and they collectively have the same values and they're like, yep, we pick him to be the leader and he has our best interest, it's easier. But when you talk about large scale issues that everyone has a different role in, right? Like this comes up with, global warming all the time. Well, this country is really trying hard to reduce all of its emissions, but this country doesn't care about it. They don't prioritize it, and they are actually emitting more carbon into the atmosphere. Like, at what point do we get people to work on that because they actually have their own self-interest for their own communities? I
just want to go back to this Van Jones thing real quick and just say, to pause real quick and just entertain this thought. We had someone in the chat say, I heard that Tyre Nichols was banging some dude's wife. And we're like, whoa, I mean, we're wondering if there was something personal here, but we can't verify that. CNN's running a story being like, oh, actually, the cops were white supremacists. It's like,
the first one's more believable.
This is the point.
Second.
This is the point right here.
We're the mainstream media.
So it's like, if you came to me and said, here's a video of a man wailing on the face of another man, I'd be like, damn, what do you do? Bang the guy's wife? Because it is a simple solution to assume they had a beef. But then imagine a news anchor says, actually, we think the real reason is that black man swinging his fists is actually a white supremacist. So it's like, okay, so you want me to believe, CNN, Van Jones, that those 5 black men were anti-black racists with internalized white supremacy as a more plausible reason as opposed to homeboy bang dude's wife.
Dude, yes. Dave Chappelle did the skit with Clayton Bigsby, but he couldn't even pull it off. He had to make the guy blind. You can't just, he couldn't be like, if he saw his own skin color, then the joke, it wouldn't even be funny. It's
like
it's
they
so
want
ridiculous.
you to believe that racism and internal race, it's like it's more deadly than COVID. It's like literally the most dangerous thing out there that infects your mind, and it can take a black person and make them actually hate black people and do something. This is what they're saying with a straight face, which is amazing.
But I will say, racism is disgusting. When you talk to someone that actually is really racist and they say it, and you're like, what? What are you? It's gross. But the thing is, Van Jones is softening it and making it so you don't.
He's a racist.
Well, and I'd say one further, like he wrote this for CNN, it has the opinion label on it, right? But then someone else at CNN is going to say, here's some factual reporting. And some people believe it was actually motivated by white supremacy. And they'll link to his article. But then it'll continue to be cycled and cycled and cycled until it becomes part of the normal narratives. It's these cops who were motivated by white supremacy beat this guy. Like it's a kind of nasty cycle of absorbing these guesses at what's going on.
I agree, it's gross. For me, I would phrase it as racism is annoying at an academic level, and it's gross on a personal level. Like we have a bunch of friends of the show who are a variety of different races, and just thinking about the fact that like a racist person would say something negative about any of the guests we've had on who are not white. I mean, these are good people. These are people of good opinion. We have people like the Hoteps come on. We have people like Andy I know you mentioned earlier on. But we have people with a bunch of different backgrounds. And I'm like, these are all people who are good people that do good work, that agree with a lot of your opinions. And then you'd have someone who just says, because of the way they look, I have a negative view. I'm like, that's the stupidest thing. But the reason it's annoying to me is that when you look at a situation like this with Tyre Nichols, we're asking ourselves, what is the context and circumstance that results in a conflict like this? It is not because the men internalized white supremacy. That makes literally no sense. It's a strange crackpot conspiracy theory, but it's annoying to me because I'm like, I'm trying to solve a problem here. And it's like, you're coming out, it's like watching someone with a Chinese finger trap pull as hard as they can. And you're like, my guy, just stop. Okay. It's not the surface level solution on this one. Sometimes maybe you could probably pull so hard, you'll rip the thing apart, but we're trying to figure out why this happened. And I don't think it's because Tyre Nichols was banging a dude's wife, but that certainly makes more sense. It could simply be because the cops are frustrated and angry. Maybe something happened earlier in the day. Maybe Tyre they said it was reckless driving. Some people are disputing that. We have no idea. But when Van Jones comes out and says, oh, it's because they were racist, it's like, bro, we're not going to solve the problem of what's happening with bad cops like this. I'm not saying all cops, but when there are bad cops, if you just say racism, it's like, okay, actually that cop was doing illegal deals and bribery. You know, if we're going to actually hold them accountable, we need to hold them accountable for the things that are leading to this, not just go, racism and throw the
Well, it's the
papers in
racism industrial complex. If racism disappeared tomorrow, think of how many people would be unemployed. Our economy might
Every
crash.
Democrat?
Every nonprofit would just go kaput. There would be no need for half of them. How many politicians would lose their jobs? Like, I'm on Twitter today and I'm seeing, like, when I see Kamala Harris and Joe Biden talking about this guy, I don't know, it just really angered me about the situation in Duxbury, Mass, where they will never mention those 3 innocent children they will never mention them, but they will make it seem like this is the biggest deal in the world because racism is the biggest problem confronting our country. Why would they want a cure for it when they can just keep selling the antidote and keep getting elected off of it?
Let's jump to the next story here. Otherwise, we're going to go in. I think I'm starting to go in circles. We have this from Timcast.com. Breaking: DePape Pelosi body camera footage released. And oh boy, do I have a lot of questions that need to be answered. Because, we were hearing a lot about what happened with Paul Pelosi's attack. We had a lot of questions about what seemed to not make sense. The video seems to clarify a lot of what we didn't know, but oh boy, does it raise a whole lot of questions about what was going on. And look, I don't know what happened. All I know is it's a very, very weird video. Now, I do want to say, earlier today, I did a segment where I talked about how I thought it was more likely it was a drug deal gone wrong. It makes more sense. But then they did release the footage showing DePape smashing the back door window.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, okay, I'm going to walk that back. Still think it's possible, but probably very unlikely because it would require them staging a broken window for some reason, which I don't know, maybe they did, but I really find it unlikely. I'll just tell you this. In the video footage, you can see this right here. I got questions. How is it that Paul Pelosi, in his underwear, is holding a drink of some sort and the hammer in DePape's hand, and they're both at the door with the police, and Paul Pelosi does not walk out to the police. He just stands there looking in a stupor. You look at his face and he's like, huh?
He could run to them right there. They're right there. Why doesn't he just run to them?
Because DePape's got the hammer and Paul is trying to hold it. Because when they say, hey, drop the hammer, DePape responds.
You let go of that hammer.
No.
Like,
so he's the one
DePape's pulling on the hammer. You let go. He falls back. Run. Just run to the cops. They're right there. They're right there.
I think they're hammered. I think Paul Pelosi is drunk out of his mind, which is part of why they didn't want to release it, because he's in his boxers drunk in 1 a.m. with his drug dealer or whoever this guy is.
I mean, he's in his own home. To be fair to Paul, it's his home if he wants to be drunk in his boxers.
Of course, fine.
I don't even think he's doing anything wrong.
I think
I wish they had released this.
I don't blame him for being a raging alcoholic.
No.
You're 82 years old and married to Nancy
Party
Pelosi.
on, brother.
Why wouldn't you be?
Well, it's the stock trading that really bothers me, that his wife gives him inside deals. I don't allegedly.
Well, hold on. We didn't
Back to the video.
We did not excuse that. We excused the drinking.
Right. So
you can drink if you
go
want.
on with your bad self, Paul, but lay off the stock trades.
I think the reason he doesn't run to the cops, he's plastered. Mm-hmm. He's just drunk out of his mind.
Trying to stay calm.
That's why
got
when
no pants on.
So he just gets drunk every night, and this happened.
He got a DUI recently, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
So here's what I think.
Didn't he kill someone in that DUI too?
No, he didn't kill him.
He injured someone. He hit another car.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He didn't just like get a DUI
wow.
and go on. Like, he hit another car. I can't remember if it was fatal or not.
He's a drunk. I think the guy breaks in. Paul probably already had a drink, was probably just plastered out of his mind. DePape's like, where's Nancy? And he's like, oh, wow. Just like, ugh. And then he calls 911. You got to listen to this 911 call.
I haven't heard it.
It does not make sense.
Yeah.
It doesn't. People have said he's trying to de-escalate. A crazy man breaks into your house. You don't want to get into a fight with him. You want to talk him down, try and get the police there. Mm-hmm. There's that old story where the woman is being abused by her boyfriend. So she calls 911 and pretends like she's ordering a pizza. And she's like, oh, I have a large pepperoni. And the dispatcher's like, ma'am, this is 911. And she goes, yes. And like, ma'am, you can't order pizza here. And she's like, yes, a large pepperoni. Ma'am, are you saying this because someone is around you who will hurt you? Yeah. And they go, okay, what's your address? And then they give the address and make it seem like it's a pizza. But Paul Pelosi wasn't doing that. Mm-mm. He's like, I think I called you by mistake. And then she's like, do you need emergency services? He goes, no. What do you think? And then DePape goes, I think it's good. And she goes, and he goes, okay.
DePap was on the tape?
Yeah, you
Yes.
can hear him.
DePap's sitting with him, and he's or standing with him.
I thought he was in the bathroom. I thought he was like hiding in the bathroom.
No, he's
That's what
he's
they told
with
us
them
originally.
Oh.
And she's like, do you need emergency, fire, or medical? And he goes, I don't think so. What do you think? And then DePap goes, I think we're good. And he goes, he says he thinks we're good, but he's not leaving. And I'm just like, oh, hold on a minute.
Okay, so that's kind of like a hostage
Well,
call.
isn't there a moment where Paul is like,
Why would DePap be like, it is totally fine, you've called the police, and I'm standing here talking with you, and I'm your friend?
Yes.
DePap even says, I'm a friend.
yeah, but Paul has to ask him his name. She's like, what's the guy's name? And,
Sure.
and we hear David, DePap go, David. I mean,
Right.
like, I don't know that they actually know each
And
other.
I'm not saying he did. I'm just saying
I'm
this
sure they didn't know each
doesn't
other.
So
make
maybe
sense.
the guy's not his dealer. I had that narrative going on in my
Yeah.
head. Maybe it's just some random.
No, for sure. But my question is then, why would DePap let Pelosi call 911, communicate with the dispatcher and Pelosi?
Maybe he
And-
said he was calling Nancy.
No.
Maybe he told DePap that.
She says he doesn't call 911. He calls the San Francisco PD.
Do you have that call? Is that call?
non-emergency.
Can we listen to that?
I'm pretty sure it's a
Let's.
non-emergency.
I've never heard it.
I think we
This
do
would be
have
worth
it.
listening to.
I just want to be
Is he
careful
like
because
breathing heavily during it, or like?
we're not getting.
Well,
any,
and he's slow
there's
to
no audio
identify
playing?
himself, too. And I don't know if that's on purpose or not. He keeps
Audio's
saying,
not coming
like,
out.
Should be feeding.
Oh wait.
There
we go.
18 seconds. This is San Francisco Police. Do you need help?
Oh, well, there's a gentleman here just waiting for my wife to come back. Nancy Pelosi.
2:23 and
He's just waiting for her to come back, but she's not going to be here for a day, so I guess we'll have to wait.
Okay, do you need police, fire, or medical for anything? 8 seconds.
I don't think so.
2:23 and
Okay.
58 seconds.
There's is the Capitol Police around?
2:20. No, this
They
is San
usually
Francisco.
protect my wife. They're usually here at the house protecting my wife.
No,
But
this is
gentleman
San
came in.
Francisco Police.
I
Friday, October.
I understand.
8,
Um,
2022.
Okay, well,
0:24
I don't know, what do you think?
18 seconds.
think everything's good. He thinks everything's good. I've got a problem, but he thinks everything's good.
Okay.
Okay, now hold on real quick. I've got a problem, but he thinks everything's good. Okay, maybe it's fair to say he is trying to de-escalate and he's scared to say police and police, but he literally asked for the Capitol Police. That doesn't make sense.
Saying that they're usually protecting his wife.
Maybe he
like-
wanted to make the Pappy feel more at ease to know there's no cops around.
But he could have been like, "Oh, I can call them and tell them to bring Nancy. I'll call them right now."
well,
How did DePap let him call 911? He denies wanting emergency medical, but then emergency services, police or fire, but then asks if the Capitol Police are around.
I think it sounds like he was making a phone call to. I bet he just tried to appease him and said, "Oh, we'll get Nancy. Oh, you want Nancy? I'll get Nancy on the phone right now." And he makes a call and he's talking.
I must have called you by mistake.
See,
yeah,
it makes
because you would,
me-
if you were DePappy, you would not know he was talking to 911 there.
it makes
What
me
would
think
make you
he
that?
called the Capitol Police or whoever it secures his house normally first and didn't get a hold of them. Because he then is like, I must have called you by mistake because I'm actually looking for someone else. Are Capitol Police around? Like, he doesn't actually want to be talking to San Francisco Police. He wants to be talking to Capitol Police. If they
I think
secure
he actually
your
called them by
house,
mistake.
don't you have a contact for them?
by mistake.
I think Paul was drunk out of his mind and called them by mistake. I don't know for sure, but think about this. If DePap was going to let him make a phone call, why wouldn't he call his wife or the Capitol Police?
Maybe that's what he said he was doing. We don't know what he
But
told.
no,
DePap.
hold on. DePap let him call the police.
But did DePap know he was talking to police?
He's literally talking to someone who says, "Do you want police?"
But is he on speakerphone?
If
Does
he's
DePap hear
if
that?
he's not on speakerphone, why didn't he say yes? Send the police.
Probably because DePap was standing there with a hammer, like 3 feet away from him.
Okay, you guys aren't
And he's
listening.
like, okay,
Let's
I got
pause
to be
real
real
quick.
smooth about this.
We got to pause real quick.
I'm pulling a pizza
He's on the
delivery.
phone, and they say, "Do you need police, fire, medical?" No, I don't think so.
Because DePap's looking at him.
So then why did he say, "Are the Capitol Police around?"
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, you hear a
because
knock
he
on the
wants to
door.
make the guy feel more at ease.
Then
to know
why
there's no-
didn't he call the Capitol Police?
Because he was waiting.
It does
He's
not
messing-
make
because he's
sense.
messing with
drunk
what's-
logic.
He's messing with the Pappy.
Drunk logic is no logic.
No,
Yes,
see-
yes.
Maybe
Drunk
that's it.
logic
Maybe
is no
that's it,
logic.
yeah.
Look, I'm sorry. DePap let him make a phone call, or he made a phone call and DePap was getting angry. But if he's concerned, if he was doing the secret thing where he's like, "Please send me a pizza," if DePap can't hear, and she says, "Do you need police?" He could have been like, "Oh yeah, that'd be great." But maybe DePap can hear. But then he literally says, "There's the Capitol Police around." DePap certainly heard that.
Yeah.
And if he was concerned, if he was concerned about DePap's reaction, why did he call SFPD, ask for the Capitol Police instead, and say he doesn't want SFPD when he could have taken his phone and called? Drunk logic is no logic. I think it's possible, because this doesn't make sense. He was so drunk, he accidentally called SFPD because he's got SFPD and Capitol Police in his phone, and he's like, and he hits the wrong button. Look, there's a million reasons he could have done this. But when I heard this, everyone's saying it's de-escalation. He doesn't want DePap to get angry. Well, DePap's standing next to him when he asks for the Capitol Police.
Maybe, but I hear a knock on the door. Did you hear the knock? If you pull it back right before he mentions the Capitol Police, you hear
Usually
4
at the
knocks.
house, protecting my wife.
No, this is San Francisco Police.
Friday, October.
I understand.
8, 2022.
Okay, well,
0224
I don't know, what do you think?
18
No, it's before this.
he thinks everything's good. I've got a problem. But
You can hear the
he thinks
terror in his
everything's
voice. So go back. It's earlier.
He's just waiting for her to come back, because she's not going to be here for a day, so I guess we'll have to wait.
Okay, do you need police, fire, or medical for anything?
8 seconds.
I don't think so.
Yeah, why wouldn't he just say yes right there?
23.
Why would he say, "I don't think so"?
Yeah.
But then say, "Are the Capitol Police around?"
He might have walked into a bathroom and closed the door right before he mentions the
Right,
Capitol.
you heard that right
Yeah,
there.
right
Can you
there.
rewind?
What was that?
But it could be.
Wait,
0223 and 58 seconds.
There's the
I don't think someone's knocking. I think someone's putting something down on a dresser or something.
Maybe. This is like right before he opens the door. He's like, "Can you?"
is
Are
the
the Capitol Police?
Capitol Police around?
No.
then he opens the
because
door.
of this call, they sent police out later on.
Yeah, but I mean, when he says, "Are the Capitol Police around?" and then he opens the door to let David in, something like that. Like maybe David didn't hear him say that part.
All I know is this is somehow
No, this
Trump's
is
fault.
San Francisco.
Somehow
No,
this is
no, no,
Trump's
no, no,
fault.
no,
Like
no,
somehow
stop,
this is
stop,
Trump's
stop.
fault. Like,
If David wasn't in the room with him and he was on the phone with police, he would have said, "Send the police now, I need help." So if David is in the room with him, the argument is that he didn't want to agitate DePap. But then he literally says, "Are the Capitol Police around?"
So I'm wondering if he was like, "David, I got to go to the bathroom. Hold on, we'll figure this out." He goes into the bathroom, closes the door, makes the call. Halfway through, right before you hear a knock on the door, and he's like, "Are the Capitol Police around?" Because that's the knock. And then he opens the door.
Why
He's like,
wouldn't he close the door and say, "Okay, yes, please come"?
yeah, why wouldn't he just lock the door?
Doesn't
and stay
make sense,
hiding in
dude.
there?
Even when they
I
ask
don't,
him.
hold on. This is what's frustrating to me. Why everyone is trying so hard to justify Paul Pelosi is innocent and was actually a victim when the call doesn't make sense.
I'm justifying it because DePap smashed his window to get into his house and hit him in the head with a hammer.
Yeah,
It
that
caused
and
massive-
also like
But
what are
simply
you saying
put,
he's
Paul
doing?
Pelosi is drunk out of his mind and doesn't make sense. So it's like, why try and twist yourself into a position to justify that Paul Pelosi's call makes no sense?
I mean, a lot of people were at first were saying the lover thing, right? That was
That's silly.
That was silly because if he was looking for a gay lover, he's rich and he's 80. You know,
He's in San
82.
Francisco.
He wouldn't find a 300-pound fat loser like that.
whoa,
he
whoa,
could
whoa,
find
hey.
like a 40-year-old.
Maybe he likes them big.
Maybe I don't know. Maybe
You know,
he's got a
people got
fetish
their-
for it.
Yeah.
People got
no
their
judgment.
their
but
types. Exactly.
That
See,
guy was
there you
looking
go.
for Nancy for sure. The way he said, "He's here looking for my wife," like he says it all
he's
diplomatically.
definitely looking for Nancy.
Yeah, that's what he says.
So he's trying to give David some hope, like, "Hey, maybe if I make this call."
Let's play through the call.
They're usually here at the house, protecting my wife.
No, this is San Francisco Police.
Friday, October.
I understand.
8, 2022.
Okay, well,
0224
I don't know, what do you think?
18 seconds.
What do you think?
That's a way
It's
of
like saying,
All
should we
right,
get
let's play, let's play.
should we get pepperoni too?
he thinks everything's good. I've got a problem, but he thinks everything's good.
Okay. Call us back if you change your mind.
8
Think about that. Call us back if you need some help or whatever she said,
Change your mind.
or if you change your mind.
No. This gentleman just came into the house, and he wants to wait here for my wife to come home.
0, 2,
And so,
4 and 48.
anyway, he told me to put the phone down.
Do you know who the person is?
No, I don't know who he is. He has this. He's telling me. He's telling me not to. He's telling me not to do anything.
What is your address?
Okay, this is just weird.
Like, that sounds like a lie. He probably knows who he is.
It sounds like a lie because he's telling me not to do anything. The dude's standing next to him. He's literally asking DePape what he thinks, but then telling the police, DePape says don't do anything, doesn't make sense.
Yeah, dude.
It doesn't. What doesn't make sense is we can say Pelosi's drunk, but DePape is standing next to him being like, don't you call the police. Oh, tell them my name's David. What?
Yeah, I think DePape expected that this phone call was going to result in Nancy coming over.
Yes, sir.
2640.
That's what I was saying. Like that, he was humoring him. He's making him think that Nancy's going to be here.
Pelosi.
Friday.
Anyway, this gentleman says that he thinks everything ought to, he told me to put the phone down and just do what he said.
18 seconds.
Okay?
Okay, what's the gentleman's name?
I don't know. What's that?
My name's David.
So he can't.
doesn't know him.
He can hear the dispatcher. She said, "What's his name?" And he immediately responded, "David
so
DePape."
he can't hear what they're saying. Yeah.
He can hear the dispatcher.
The name is David.
Okay, and who is David?
25,
I don't know. What's that?
I'm a friend of theirs.
Yeah,
That's a lie.
he says he's a friend, but as I said, I've never.
But you don't know who he is?
25
No, ma'am.
48 seconds.
Right there, you're sending squad cars.
Okay.
Yeah.
Immediately.
He's
Like,
telling
this
me I'm
is an
being very
emergency.
leading,
Like,
so I gotta-
if you're
What
the
I-
dispatcher.
Yeah, that's all. So he didn't know David. Now,
So that's all the dispatcher need to hear. Like, you
But
don't
hold
know
on.
who he is.
Like, I mean, look, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that everybody is smart enough to break this down, but if I was the 911 dispatcher, 911 dispatcher, and a guy called and said, "Yeah, some guy just came into my house and he's going to wait here for my wife," I'd be like, "What's your address?" Instantly, "What's your address?" And then I'd call and be like, "We got a report of someone entering someone's house. You guys want to go check it out?" I'll keep him on the phone and try and figure out what's going on. But this lady, this 911 dispatcher is just like, "Well, okay, I guess." Like, are you kidding?
You get these
Call us
rogue
back if you need us.
dispatchers.
Yeah.
Did you guys ever hear that dispatch call where the guy got stabbed and he called 911? He's like, "I've been stabbed. I'm bleeding out." And she's like,
Calm
"Where
down.
are you?" And yeah, really? Where are you at? He's like, "I don't know," or something. And she's like,
He's like,
gets
"I'm-
confrontational
no,
with him.
There was one where two kids got shot in a drive-by, and then two young guys, young adults, maybe like 20 years old, and they call and they're like, "Help! Help! I've been shot!" And she goes, "Calm down." Where he's like, "I'm dying. I'm here. Here's the address." And she goes, "If you keep talking to me like that."
That's what it was.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking
These
of.
people, like a lot of these 911 dispatchers, they're like RMV employees. They're the grumpiest people. Like, dude, I'm in crisis. Aren't you used to this? Like, every person who calls you is in crisis. Have you never dealt with a crazy person before? You're like, "I'm sorry, I don't talk to people unless you talk to me in a calm voice." You're 911.
It could be like compassion fatigue. You know, they do this all the time. It could be them like being to the point where like they've just done it all day. They don't know if there could be people that call in to the same day that were pranking them the whole time. You never know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I totally hear what you're saying.
There are a ton of people who call in insanely hysterical over
Right.
something that, like, if you're the 911 dispatcher, starts to feel small in comparison. Like, the next person calls you with a murder, person before that calls you because someone bumped their car.
Well,
like,
look at the Veritas video from yesterday. The guy called the cops for that, for a guy asking him questions.
the cops are like,
Sorry to interrupt.
No, sorry. I think the weird thing to me is that, like, she's like, "Well, so call us back," and Paul's like, "No, I have a problem. I don't want him to be here." Like, I can't explain the beginning of the call. It is weird no matter how you look at it. I personally tend to lean towards, like, yeah, I think it does seem like he's trying to, like, alert someone. And I still have the instinct that he maybe tried to get a hold of Capitol Police first and it didn't work.
I gotta stop real quick. Take everything into consideration with the 911 call, and then take into consideration that he answers the door with the police holding a beverage.
Yeah.
Maybe it's water.
that he won't put down.
That he won't put down. And when DePape twists the hammer out of his hand, he still won't drop his drink to try and stop the hammer.
Alcoholism.
Good drink.
Maybe.
That's some alpha thing. He's like trying to establish, like, "Yo, I'm in control here." I don't know.
$6,000 whiskey. He's like, it's not.
It's not, I'm not dropping.
I'm
He
not
spilled-
dropping-
He's not buying the cheap stuff.
No.
Why
That's
would
true.
you? You're a Pelosi.
Yeah, I mean, Nancy's got that $20 ice cream or whatever, in her fridge. Remember that?
Maybe Paul felt like the cops are going to get this guy off of me, so let's
Like-
just move on.
Some people in a crisis situation are good at staying calm and trying to talk the person down, stuff like that. But, like, I don't know that Paul Pelosi is. Maybe he is. But to then walk around with your like nightcap is very strange.
I'm going to play this. There's only a few more seconds.
Stop talking to you, okay?
25.
Let me jump in.
Yeah.
Here we go. Let's play the rest.
Okay.
He's telling me I'm being very leading, so I got to stop talking to you, okay?
25 and
He's been very
Okay.
what?
You sure I
Leading?
can stay on the
Come on.
phone with you just to make sure everything's okay?
No, he must get that off the phone. Okay.
Okay.
And 08
Thank you.
seconds.
Okay, bye.
I'm on Paul's side here.
I don't understand why, considering we heard all of that, he didn't say to David, "If you want me to call Nancy, I can call the people who drive around, take care of her. It's the police." Or so, I'll call them and let them know and tell them to bring her over.
He would have believed it.
Probably.
I mean, he
drunk,
literally said
scared.
on the phone, "I want Capitol Police." I don't understand why he said, "Are the Capitol Police there?" instead of just saying, "Are like you're
Any
the
police will do.
He was
yeah, right. Any police will do.
He was probably panicking as he was drunk and not used to this kind of thing because it just didn't. A lot of it was just kind of desperate. Like Capitol Police when he's on the San Francisco 911 call and he asks for Capitol Police. That's a weird desperation.
Well, that's why I want to know, like, why is he like, I need Capitol Police? Like, if you're drunk and you're in an emergency, even if you're managing to stay weirdly calm, like, as soon as you get any kind of police, wouldn't you be like, yes, yes? Like, to me, it's interesting that he is specifically like, I don't know that I want to talk to you, but I definitely want to talk to Capitol Police.
It's also possible that Capitol Police has a contingent in San Francisco watching the Pelosi's house that are in touch with the police department, but 911 dispatcher didn't know that.
Philip R. super chatted that he was trying to speak in code, telling her that he was Pelosi's husband. I do agree with that. He says, he's waiting for my wife, Nancy Pelosi. And it's just like, the funny thing about that is like, my guy,
like, who?
nobody knows who that is. Nobody knows who that is. I will. We should
Nancy
make
Pelosi is.
Nobody knows who Nancy Pelosi is.
I think there are tons of people who couldn't name the Speaker of the House.
I'd be willing to bet.
You're in the news.
We're in an
You're
echo chamber,
biased.
dude.
Yeah.
Go to Times Square, and I will give you $10 for every person who says they know who Nancy Pelosi is.
Yeah.
What percentage of the country do you think knows who Nancy Pelosi is?
12
Adults? How many adults?
Oh, yeah, 12%.
That's it?
Yep.
What?
Yeah.
I was thinking that
I
today.
think she's one of the
ever
most
watched-
identifiable.
Have you ever
colors.
watched Flecka's videos?
I have.
Where he goes on the street and asks them basic questions like, "What name a country that starts with the letter U?" And they go, "I don't know." It's like United States of America.
Kind of a trick question.
Oh, come on,
Do you think?
man.
You think?
I was thinking last night. Oh, what's it?
No, go ahead.
How we're in an echo chamber. How I'm in an echo chamber, even though I'm trying to be open minded. I texted my buddy out in LA, and I was like, "What do people in your zone think about Ukraine? Do they want an escalation?" Because I'm in kind of like a libertarian, conservative echo chamber, and everybody wants out of there. They want the U.S. not involved, and so he messaged back. He's like, "We want peace. We want Russia to not be invading." And it's like, man, I still have like portals to people in other echo chambers, but we are, and even social media is intensifying that.
Yeah, I was gonna say my echo chamber is my friends who are not at all interested in politics, but could tell you everyone who's competing on The Bachelorette, and I love them dearly.
True.
But they just have lives and jobs, and they don't follow the news super intensely. They're all smart and wonderful. They probably don't know who the Speaker of the House is.
How many people do you think right now know who Kevin McCarthy is?
Less than Nancy Pelosi. I think she's more famous than him.
Maybe only because she was Speaker than Speaker, and she's been in for a really long time. But I would be willing to bet that if you went out into Times Square and spent 1 8-hour shift, it would not financially harm me to pay you $10 for every individual you interview that says, "I know who Nancy Pelosi is. She was the Speaker of the House in the 117th and 16th Congress." Some people, you know what I would say? I would say half correct answers, like, "She that Democrat lady?" I'll accept that. But I'd be willing to bet after 8 hours of asking people, I might end up losing in Times Square, I don't know, a couple $100.
All right, Mark Dice, go do it. Full trans. I want to see all of them. Though. Show me
I would
everybody.
say 45% would know Nancy Pelosi. That would be my
45%.
That's what
I'm
I'd
gonna
put
go
the
low.
over under at 45.
I'm going to be about 12, 10%, 15%.
That's so low.
12 or 10%.
She's just not that interesting. No offense, Nancy, but
the
I mean,
Speaker
it's a
of the House. She's not the
politician. People
president.
aren't really into that kind of thing. We're in like
Yo,
a real
how
unique
about this one? How
environment.
about this one? Ask someone who their current congressional rep
Oh,
is.
that they would not know. They would not know. Like nobody knows. Like unless you're Congresswoman's AOC or somebody like famous like that, you're not going to know who they. Most people aren't going to know who they are. I agree with
How
that.
many followers does Pelosi have on Twitter is an interesting question.
That is a good question.
Twitter also is a tough one because it is like a political social network.
Right. It's very political.
People on
charged.
Twitter probably. How many people
She's
on Twitter
got-
know who Nancy
Like,
Pelosi
really,
is?
She's
how
got
many
8.1 million followers.
But how many followers on Instagram does she have, right?
That's
I feel
it,
like
right.
there are more people who are on that platform.
She doesn't run her account. Like she's way too old.
That's
to
not
run her account.
that's not why I ask though. I don't care about if she runs the account or not. It's 1.5 million on Instagram. decent. How many people?
But a significant drop off, right? Like,
Right. How many? Twitter is the news and politics space.
Yeah.
Instagram is casual celebrity.
Yeah.
1.5 million followers. I'm sorry, bro. That's nothing.
Yeah, it's not that big.
That's.
I mean, it's less than AOC, who, remember, after she got elected, very famously did her skincare routine on the train down from New York to DC. Like, she is working the crowd that she thinks will elect her.
AOC's got 8.6 million Instagram followers.
But what, 14 million Twitter, I think?
AOC on
Yeah,
Twitter?
Yeah, I think she's like 14 million on Twitter.
Someone want to look it up? Let's do.
Yeah.
I think she's the top congresswoman for.
Casey Neistat has 3 million followers.
Who's that?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's-
Is he a
exactly.
congressman?
No,
No,
he's a
no.
YouTube.
So I love that you think he is.
Who's Casey Neistat?
Casey
Neistat.
Neistat is they call him the godfather of vlogging.
He's like the liberal version of Michael Malice.
Of logging?
No,
They
Like
sound
looks
alike.
like,
Yeah, they look alike
Like
too.
logs, like in a river?
Vlogging.
Of vlogging, okay.
Vlogs before Casey Neistat were like people with their phones filming themselves, and then he brought cinematic editing and production to YouTube vlogging, gained 10 million subscribers. He's got 3 million followers on Instagram. He's on magazine covers, and you don't know who he is.
That dude's
But
gonna
you-
hate me now.
But you're he's a cool dude.
Okay.
cool.
You're a
My bad, dude.
You're a
Casey.
you're a Politico.
I'm gonna follow you.
And you think everybody's got to know who Nancy Pelosi is, but she's got less than half the followers of Casey Neistat, and he's a mainstream celebrity you never heard of.
For the record, Alexandria Cortez has 13.4 million on Twitter. 13.4.
Is that her professional account or is that her personal?
It just says at AOC, so I guess that's personal.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the one that existed before she was a congresswoman.
What do you guys think about a congressman having their own and a congressional one? What I don't like about at POTUS, for instance, as the president of the United States, is that it gets handed off to the next guy.
Yeah. What about the DMs? So no private DMs on there on the
They
POTUS
probably-
account.
they probably
You're like the
wipe
next
it.
guy's gonna read all
Scrub them
my
as
stuff.
best they can.
Yeah, probably get scrubbed.
I guess it makes sense.
Yeah.
I think
Like imagine Bill Clinton had one. He's texting Monica on the DMs. Then he's got to hand it over to the next guy.
Bush is like, what's happening
Awkward.
here?
Whoa, yeah.
No, I mean, I think I like the intent, right? Like to be like, this is my personal opinion versus like how I am representing my constituents online.
I
But
see.
I think it's it's really easy to conflate the two. And if you say like, oh, but I said that on my personal account, are you supposed to be held less accountable to it? You know what I mean?
You know who Billie Eilish is?
I do.
Right. 108 million followers. So it's like an entirely different league. But that's
That's that like girl, like she looks like a little boy and she's got a high voice, right?
No,
she's a
she's got,
singer.
like-
She's a pop singer. You got it. You got it.
She got-
She looks like a little boy, doesn't
No,
she?
because you're thinking that because she
no.
dresses in baggy clothes. Like she
Okay.
has
Oh,
like
maybe. You might
masculine
think so.
style.
She's definitely not sexy.
Kind of like green hair. Well, it depends on who you ask.
She's young.
Yes, she's like
young.
20.
And she's wicked woke.
Yes.
Is she?
Okay.
Yeah. She
yeah.
performed at the Democratic National Convention.
But does it mean she's woke or is she just like default liberal?
Like insanely woke. Like
Well, no,
purple
she's-
hair, like one of those people that
No, not necessarily. Just because of the way
Yeah, I
she
don't know about
dresses
that.
doesn't mean she's super woke. She also
Okay.
has like views against pornography, etc. She's like staunchly anti-pornography.
So
There's,
she's a
like,
Matt Walsh fan.
But I'm
But
thinking.
she's definitely a Democrat.
I was
Yeah,
trying to.
you can say that.
The reason I bring her up is just because I'm like, who's the most famous like younger person I can think of,
Right.
and you knew who that was, you know. So I don't know. I don't think that many people would know who Nancy Pelosi is. Let's actually, I'll set up a poll. We'll set up a poll.
Yeah, they're
see
calling
what-
for
Your
one in the chat.
followers are all going to know who she is, but
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it makes a difference. And we're measuring off of Twitter and Instagram, like we said. Twitter's much more political. It's more news oriented. Instagram's more lifestyle. There are a lot of people who like it. We're not talking about Facebook because I don't think anyone is super involved in Facebook anymore. And let's remember that Gen Z is actually going to measure you based on how many followers you have on TikTok, right? Which I'm confident Nancy Pelosi is. If she's on TikTok, she's far behind any of the TikTok celebrities.
Do you have a TikTok account, Aidan?
I have it. I don't want to use it. I just don't want to give in because it's literally owned by it's Chinese spyware.
Yeah.
And I'm just telling myself, no. But when you're in my line of work and you're doing, blogs and you're talking about pop culture and stuff, it's like everything is on TikTok. It's literally impossible to avoid. It sucks.
Do you know what the Third Amendment is?
I taught history. I should know this. No, I forget. I used to know him.
That dude in January 6th who put his feet on Pelosi's desk, he was asked by the prosecutor, First Amendment,
it's where the British can't sleep in your house.
Correct.
Yeah,
government-
that's
you don't have to
okay.
house
Okay.
soldiers.
It's
Boom,
the government
done.
can't
Yep.
quarter soldiers
Okay, yep.
in your home.
Yep.
And it actually came up during COVID, but they asked that dude who put his feet on Pelosi's desk, they were like, do you like the First Amendment? Yes. What is it? Do you like the Second Amendment? Do you know what the Third Amendment is? And he says, no. Recently, there was a judge being nominated. This one was really funny. and the judge was asked, I can't remember who asked it, do you know what Article 5 of the Constitution is?
I saw that.
And she said, it doesn't come to mind. And he goes, okay, how about Article 2? And she goes, doesn't come to mind. Article 2, a judge not knowing, is insane.
Yeah.
Article 5, it's
It was
like
the amendments one. 5 is the amendments, right?
the Convention of States.
Okay.
Article 2 is the executive branch. So when she was like, I have no idea. It's like, come on, dude. Wow. But, you know,
Did he know that she wasn't going to get that question
Yeah,
right?
yes.
Ahead of time?
But here's why I bring that up. It's like when a judge can't tell you about the executive branch article in the Constitution, I don't think the average person is going to be able to tell you who Nancy Pelosi is. Right. Now, we had with the poll. The polls got 2,580 votes. 75% people know who Nancy Pelosi is. 75% say yes.
But when
you have a
For
politically
this
engaged
show,
one,
right? Like I tell you should go on any
All right, let's try it
huge
again.
lifestyle Instagram,
Yeah.
like whatever, someone who doesn't talk about politics and ask
Right.
their audience.
The
because-
majority of the country does not vote in the midterms. Like
Right.
less than 50% votes in the midterms.
And
So-
still, for
and
our
Nancy
audience,
Pelosi's-
25% of the audience not know who Nancy Pelosi is, unless they're trolling. Still, out of like 2,000 votes, you know, it goes to show you that some people literally don't know who she is.
Well, that didn't say "Do you know?" It just says "Do people know?" And
So I changed it. I put
I see.
I
Yeah,
changed
yeah.
it to do normies know who Pelosi is, and now it's
Right.
no.
Yeah,
So I wonder if the people in the chat were thinking it meant them.
right.
Like, does
Like,
anyone?
That's
like
what I thought
yeah,
as
do you
well.
know who Pelosi is? They're like,
They're
of
all
course.
great and informed.
That's the
but-
same thing we were just talking about projection earlier. When you know things, there's an assumption that other people know it.
Exactly.
And we are in an echo chamber. This
Dude,
is-
I talked to Bannon about the election 2020, and he was like, you know, he thinks Trump won and all that stuff, and I was like, a friend of mine posted a video of him carrying his mail-in ballot while filming. He's got his phone like this, and he's carrying it. And he drops it in the mailbox, and I'm like, this dude couldn't tell you what Supreme Court justice meant. He would have like you'd say, what does Supreme Court justice mean? And he'd be like, is that when like you win a case in the Supreme Court? He
Is
wouldn't
it a
even.
new Taco Bell seasoning sauce?
I mean, not that bad. He'd
yeah.
be like, does that mean like you got justice and like you won? It's like, no, it means the people who are the literal judges who determine these things. He couldn't tell you even the concept of that. If you go to these people, like, these are people I know who skateboard. These are people I know play music. I can hit up any one of my friends and ask them about one of these things, and they'll just be like, I got no idea what you're talking about. I will say to them, name a sitting Supreme Court justice, and they'll go, a sitting justice? What does that mean? Like
in
do you
the
mean
picture?
like
You mean like in the
no,
front
do you
row?
mean like a current case or something? No, like the justices, right? Like the people who sit on the Supreme Court. Oh, yeah, I have no idea. And I'm not talking about stupid people. I'm talking about a guy who could tell you how to rebuild a car. He can break the whole thing down for you and put it together and be like, I don't pay attention to that stuff. So that's just me. That's just me. Right now, I said, do normies know who Pelosi is? 63% said no. Maybe, I don't know.
And that's
just
fine.
me.
I have no problem with ignorant people who don't follow politics. We just should not be encouraging them to vote. And that's the problem is Democrats are encouraging the dumbest people to vote because there's strength in numbers. And so they're like, well, you know nothing about politics, but trust me, just vote for this person. And we're going to, here's a bunch of ballots for you and have them by this date in the box. Just drop it in there and things will get better if you do that.
I got to read this super chat that came in from Paul A. He says, Tim, you keep asking who opened the door at Pelosi's house. Why do you think they had an exorcism? Math checks out. There you go.
I told you, I thought it was haunted.
You know she had an exorcism, right?
Who? Nancy
Pelosi.
did?
Yeah.
Yeah.
On
After the
herself?
attack.
At the house.
What did that involve?
They brought in
Those
priests.
guys are
to
crazy hippies.
exorcise-
I didn't know.
What did that
No wonder they're in
involve?
San Francisco.
I don't know. They brought in priests to perform
They're
an exorcism.
Catholics, right?
They
Doesn't
probably thought,
exorcism,
like, dark
they
energy,
take your
you know?
soul out or something? I don't even know what happens.
It's like you cast demons out of whatever it's in, and she thinks it's
she has a
in.
demon?
I saw someone who was like, they did the souls of all the dead babies she's allowed to be murdered come out of her walls or something like that because like she's Catholic, but then she's for abortion. I mean, I respect that she's like, I want to get rid of whatever bad vibes are in my house because my husband got attacked, but I don't know.
Oh, she did that
if-
afterwards.
Yeah, I don't know if the poltergeist is the one who opened the door.
She really did that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was
It's
that
the first I've heard.
How did they,
I've seen it
how
in
did-
New York. I mean, New York Post reported
Did
on
she
it.
talk about it? Did she like tell the world? Like,
Should have video recorded it and made a documentary on it. That would have been awesome.
We should totally make like a Paranormal Activity style movie about the Pelosi's house being haunted, and like, you know, how it all went down.
The ghost of Sam Hyde.
I mean,
Take-
the biggest thing with the Pelosi thing, it's like it's more of an indictment on San Francisco that there are so many people out there like this that can just walk. Like, I assume they live in the rich part of town, but his fat ass ended up over there and got inside the house. And it's just like, that to me is the bigger part of the story. Is like San Francisco has turned into a hellhole where fat lardos like DePapier is walking around.
I think we could totally write an awesome horror movie script that propagandizes everything that happened. Like, DePap is at the house and they're having drinks together, and then, you know, he's like, I'm gonna go out for a smoke. He was in the backyard, and then the door slams and the ghost appears in the window going, "Mwah!" He's like, no, and he takes the hammer and smashes through the window to try to get back in.
He's like, I gotta save Paul. He's trying to get back in. Goes into his body.
He's swinging the hammer at the ghost, but the ghost is like just moving around, and then all of a sudden they hear a knock at the door, and then Paul looks and they're like, now what? And they open it, and then the ghost goes into DePap. And then he's like, "What's happening? No!"
But it goes in through his butt.
That's why the cop reached into. In the video, you can see the cop reach into DePap's.
We're performing an exorcism.
Yeah, I saw it was the crack. It was
weird.
It was a lot.
It was very.
You know,
weird
like you said, how
San
weird it is.
Francisco is a crazy place.
That's why they said the video was graphic.
And like Pelosi's like dying. You're like,
can we? So we can't show that part. It's pretty brutal, but it really is telling that Paul was not the villain in this one. I think when David just turns and smashes him in the head, and then you hear Paul
don't
like
actually see it. You don't.
You don't, but he's convulsing.
Yeah.
And like,
for sure.
If it's an act, I mean, that's.
I'm just saying. You
crazy,
said you see him make a swing, but it's off shot.
Yeah,
you can't see what happened.
they leave the frame, and that's when the connection is made. But then they run around the corner. You see blood on the ground. You hear Paul gasping.
Yeah. I think it's worth pointing out that David's lawyers were against this video coming out because they said it would be incriminating to him. And also, he's entered a not guilty plea, but not guilty by reason of mental insanity or defect, right? So, like, I wonder if they'll change that now that this is out. They'll be like, oh, well, he was having a mental break, and that was what's going on.
What time was that?
Carlo Magno says, Tim, we Catholics do not claim Pelosi. Bring back the potato man. We need his voice.
Oh, I never said you claimed her. I just meant that she claimed you guys.
Yeah.
Bring back the potato man.
Who's the
Seamus?
potato man?
Seamus Coughlin.
Seamus Coughlin, MD.
I don't know.
No, he's not really a doctor.
Yeah, there was some other news we were going to talk about. What's going on?
Dr.
I'm
Seamus.
chilling. We're having a good time.
This Pelosi thing's great. I feel like this is a resolution to something that's kind of was a big deal, then kind of went into the back of my brain. I'm so glad I saw that video because it makes things make a lot more sense that some crazy wacko smashed a window and hit a guy in the head. That's a lot easier to believe.
It's literally how that guy from NBC described it, who I believe was fired or censored. He described exactly what happened in the video, and then they wanted to hide it. I don't know why they wanted to hide it because, maybe they're embarrassed because he's in his underpants.
Yeah, and he's drunk, debauchery. You know,
what time was it at? This happened
1 in the morning,
That's-
2 in the
Yeah.
morning, something like that.
That's the other thing. Do we have time frames and all these things? Because there's another
So
super
was he
chat talking about the
sleeping?
time frames.
Well, you see, the reason why they didn't want it released was because they needed time to stage it. Oh, yeah, bring in the actors.
They actually just shot that. It was just
Yeah, it was
recent.
filmed. It was the other day.
It looks just like him.
Let's.
Yeah, that's right.
I want to hear about you, Aidan, for a minute because we're gonna. You told me earlier you got Turtle Boy News.
Yes, that's
So
correct.
how did you get into this whole industry?
So I was an 11th grade history teacher at a public school in Massachusetts, and I started a blog using my real name called aidanfromworcester.com, and I got in trouble for it because some of my opinions were the wrong ones, basically. Like, you're not allowed to have controversial takes or whatever. And I got suspended for 5 days with no pay. And it's hard to fire a teacher. But I was this close. Like, they're like, one more slip up because of my social media postings and you're out. So I'm like, if I want to keep doing this, I need to be anonymous. So I created a blog called Turtle Boy. There's a funny statue in downtown Worcester of a boy who looks like he's having sex with a turtle. If you Google it, he's actually riding it. It's completely innocent, but it's like the first thing people think of when they think of Worcester. So let's call the blog Turtle Boy. And it started being anonymous. I did it while I was teaching. And then we went to a game in Buffalo in September of 2014 to watch the Patriots murder the Bills again. And I filmed Buffalo fans up there because they're crazy and wild. And I was in the porta potty. They tried dumping me over. Like, it was an awesome time. And I came home. I put the videos all on my blog, and it kind of went viral in Buffalo. And so all these Buffalo people wanted to find out, like, who's this guy making fun of us and saying we're savages and blah, blah, blah. Somebody found out. I got doxxed, and a Buffalo blogger wrote a blog about me saying, this is the guy that shit on our city and blah, blah, blah. And next thing you know, our school was being inundated with emails. I was getting CC'd on all of them. Like, you have horrible words. Basically, the school was getting threats, and a police officer from Dudley had to come up to my classroom like before the last period of the day and say, we got to get you out of here. And so they brought me down to the principal's office. The union was there, and they're like, we just want to make sure you're okay. We're going to give you paid time off and just go and we'll figure this out. They were going to try, and basically what the resolution was, they offered me a full year salary to walk away. And I took it because I'm like, well, I don't want to be a teacher anymore. It was getting to the point, like I got right out before Trump, right out before, there was no transgender students when I was there. I don't even know, like none of that stuff existed in 2014.
What year? 2014.
2014. And so I'm like, and so I started doing this. It was right around the Ferguson stuff too. And I'm like, I turned it into a business. I just got a bunch of advertisers. I lost them all to boycotts. Then I got banned from Google AdSense. I had to create a new page, tvdailynews.com. It used to be called turtleboysports.com. And like I said, I've overcome countless, unprecedented, I would say, censorship and deplatforming. I've been sued more times than I can count, undefeated in court. I have multiple restraining orders on people who are constantly threatening me and my family. And it's been a struggle at times. There's been many times I've wanted to quit, but I've dedicated my life to this. So this is what I'm doing.
It sounded like in 2014, you were like one of the early, maybe not a victim, but someone that was affected by like a cancel culture mob.
Totally.
Did you know other people that were also going through that at that time?
No, I didn't. And the big thing I noticed and what upset me was I'm like, so I can't say these things because I'm a teacher. Like that's what they said. I had an opinion. I wrote a blog. I don't know if you guys remember the Richie Incognito story. Player in the Miami Dolphins. He was accused of bullying his teammate, Jonathan Martin. And my take on it was, I'm like, give me a break. 300-pound man getting bullied. It's football. You guys run into each other. And the school told me that this blog violates our anti-bullying policy because a student could read it and then feel uncomfortable going to you with bullying issues. And that's when I realized that there's no such thing as free speech for public servants. I'm like, I can't say this. So if I was an accountant, I could say this, but because I'm a teacher, I can't say this. What about my First Amendment rights?
Government employees don't have First Amendment rights.
Right. I learned that the hard way. You really don't have First Amendment rights, but I like the First Amendment. And I don't like censoring myself. I hate censoring myself. And I'm like, I just took a chance. You know, it's the American spirit of just quitting your job. I mean, teaching is a comfortable position. Like you're never going to be rich, but you'll never be poor. You'll have a pension. You know when you're going to retire, and your whole life is basically written out for you. And you'll get a house at the Cape at the end of it, and you'll move on. But I'm like, you know what? That's no way to live. I want to take a chance. I want to do something here. And here I am sitting with you fine people. So I think it worked out in the end.
What were you teaching?
I taught United States history.
So have you been still teaching history through your blog?
I got to keep up on it a little more. I went to Harper's Ferry. I come in out here, and that was really surreal because I love
the battery, the old battery where they built the weapons. It's all like down to rubble. They came in and they burned it to the ground.
Yeah,
during the Civil War.
He needed a better plan. That didn't work out too well. Maybe if he had Twitter, he could have figured something out. But I mean, I love United States history. I often incorporate it into a lot of blogs that I write, just the perspectives on this stuff. And I'm one of those teachers. Like a lot of people think that like the public schools are infected by liberal teachers. There are a lot of liberal teachers, but there's also a lot of really good history teachers. My department, the majority of the social studies department at Shepherd Hill voted for Republicans. I can say that without a doubt. And I made sure my number one goal as a teacher was to make sure my students at the end of the year had no idea who I voted for. And they did. And I think any good teacher, that should be your goal. Your students should have no idea who you voted for. You should present, every time I brought up a controversial issue that I would teach about, like abortion, and I have strong opinions on it, but I'm not going to vocalize them. I'm going to say, here is what the pro-choice side says. Here is what the pro-life says. These ideas are in conflict, and you get to make your own decisions based on those things. And unfortunately, like you see on Libs at TikTok, a lot of teachers don't do that.
And also, it sounds like if you do go on social media and express yourself, then that also just kind of upends that intention of them not knowing what your political views are because you've expressed them on social media.
Right. And that's where, you get in trouble. You're like, my social media was pretty private, and I got in trouble one time.
So I would say, like, typically teachers and students are not supposed to be connected.
I was never friends with any students or anything like that. But they're like, well, a kid could see it because you're friends with this person and this person's friends with this person, and then they might see it that way. I mean, that's how ridiculous this was. Like, schools are petrified of any sort of controversy like that when it comes to one side of the aisle. Like, you can be as radical as you want as a leftist and write the most insane pro BLM things on your Facebook page to the cows come home. You're not going to get in trouble.
Yeah.
But if you have the wrong conservative opinions on social media, That's an issue.
You think if you were at a private school, would have been different?
It would have been even worse because there's no unionization at a private school. Like at least I'm not anti-union at all. Like the union protected me with this, and as much
And
as
got
they
you a
could.
deal, it sounds
They
like.
got me a deal, like as much as they could, and that's what you pay union dues for. Is for emergencies. It's basically insurance, like in case something bad happens. I mean, there's teachers that were wrongly accused of touching kids, right? And the union was there for them. Like the first thing they taught us at Shepherd Hill was if you ever have a girl for extra help, do it in the hallway. Never in your room. Never have a kid in your room ever. I got there right after a sex scandal. If you Google her, Amber Jennings, hot, had sex with a 15-year-old student. I was asked at my interview. I swear to God, he asked me at this interview. He's like, so you're a young guy. You're 24. So what would you do if a young student came on to you and tried to hit on you? It's like, well, I would tell her no. This is inappropriate. Like, I don't know what the right answer. Like, do some people say, yeah, I would hook up with her? Like, no.
That's so crazy they didn't even ask. Like,
Yeah,
well, I'd call the police and
it's such an
report it
awkward
and
question.
leave the room. And
I'd be like, I would tell her it's inappropriate, and I'd probably email her mom and say, this is what happened in school today.
Do you think that's the right move, is to contact the parents?
Oh yeah, you got to cover your bases, man. Like, you cannot
Yeah.
take any chances. Like with a lot, like a kid goes home and starts saying, "Mr. Kearney hit on me," something like that. You got to get ahead of that. You got to get ahead of that because some of these kids are twisted.
yeah, don't be alone.
Yeah, never. I
That's
was
wild.
never alone with a student in the classroom.
We used to have
ever.
guidance counselor in their little office. You'd go sit down in their little office with them. I
Yep.
mean, maybe they had cameras. It was the 90s at that point, though.
Yeah, they probably don't do that anymore.
Nope.
wow.
Because
I'm
now
not
some
taking
kid
any
comes
chances.
out and says to the counselor, I want a free period after, lunch or whatever. And they say, well, you can't have that. Well, I'm just going to say that you said racist things to me. And they'll go, So you're not alone anymore. I mean, probably some schools are doing it, but they're in for a rude awakening with what these kids are going to be doing.
Do you also go to the principal if a kid comes to you and is hitting on you or something?
Well, that never happened, luckily.
But I think you'd probably tell everyone.
I would tell
Like,
everyone. I made it. I mean, I was 24 when I first started there, and I'm young. And like some of the seniors would hint at inappropriate things. Like they would ask the first question. They would say things like, "So, do you go out on the weekends?" And I'm like, I know where this is going.
You're like, I stay
and I'm
home,
like,
far
I go,
away
yeah.
from
And
you.
I'm like, I want to make myself seem like such a square loser that they don't even ask. Like I'm so lame. Like no. That's inappropriate. Like, and it stops real quick. They're like, this guy's lame. And that's the way I wanted to come across. I didn't want to be the cool teacher. The cool teachers are shitty teachers, quite frankly. They're in it for the wrong reasons. I wanted to be the lame teacher that taught you history. And that's what I took pride in. There was 3 junior classes in the school. And my students did, on average, 10 to 12 points higher at the test at the end of the year than the other kids. Because I made sure we got up to present day American history. A lot of teachers only made it to like JFK or maybe Vietnam. But I made sure we got through Reagan and Carter and even Clinton. And like we talked about the Kanye West. I remember showing the Kanye West Hurricane Katrina one. Like we ended with Katrina, so we got up to the present day. And I took a lot of pride in that because I was there to educate. I wasn't there to be your friend. I wasn't there to hook up with girls. And I just don't understand the teachers that go into it. It's like, what is wrong? Like,
Do you think some teachers go into it looking for validations from a younger audience?
I think a lot of the teachers that you see that have had sexual affairs with students, I think they're the people that didn't get laid in high school, right? That were just like, and now for the first time, hot girls are interested in them. And it gives them, like, it's exciting for the first time. And they're like, ooh, should I do it? Maybe she won't tell anyone. And I don't know what they're thinking.
I have a feeling there's a lot of budding teachers in chat, people listening that are preparing to become teachers or want to become teachers. What did you do to get a 13% better value in your test scores particularly? Were you able to gauge what you were doing versus what other teachers were doing?
Make sure they learn it. A lot of students, right, when you assign homework, like you probably had this when you were in school, like, okay, read this 10 pages, answer the questions at the end. Kid, what do? They skim it and they answer it. Once I realized that they were just copying out of a book, I'm like, this is ineffective. They're not learning anything this way. What I want you to do, I don't want you to answer any questions. I want you to read it. I want you to understand it. Then tomorrow, when you come in, you're going to get a quiz every single day. 10-question multiple choice. Because we haven't gone over it in class, I'm going to give you a 2. You get to get 2 wrong. And that's what I'm going to grade it on. And that's all I wanted kids to do. Just read, understand, and they learned it a lot better that way.
I got a feeling if we did audiobooks in school for kids that don't want to read, obviously we want to teach kids how to read and become literate. So there's a value to reading, but it's so long. It takes so long for me. I was like, I am not reading your crap, teach. But If it was audio, I think that might have been. I learn audibly. I think that could help.
It has to. You have to make it interesting. Like you can't just teach like, okay, there was this act and then there was this act. You got to get into it. A history teacher especially has to have energy and they have to really love the topic. Like if I was teaching the John Brown raid, it's like, okay, check this out. You know, like so there's a guy John Brown and he had 5 sons and these dudes were crazy. I don't know what they were thinking. You know, like they wanted to take this arsenal.
It's memorable.
Didn't all his kids die? Like before him?
Yes, most of them did, and he survived somehow.
Yeah,
and he got hung.
and they hanged him.
His 5 kids were fighting with him.
Yeah.
This is a slave, or this is like an abolitionist. What I guess it's called a revolt.
The
in
first
Harper's
person
Ferry
who died
town?
of Harper's Ferry was a black man they accidentally shot. It was on their side.
John Brown. If someone existed today that was like John Brown, he would be locked up in 2 seconds as a violent, murderous psychopath.
Like Timothy McVeigh
It's
or
literally
something?
an insurrection. He led an insurrection.
I mean, he killed a bunch of people. And like him and his crew, and it was in Bleeding Kansas, I believe.
Yes, he was in Kansas before, yeah.
Yeah, so Bleeding Kansas was like, we don't want new states to be slave states. Then other people were like, they did. So he goes down along with many other people, and they were. It was the pre-Civil War. It was Bleeding Kansas. It was mini Civil War, and then you know what his big mistake was? I mean, you probably know all about the John Brown raid.
Being
right?
outnumbered?
No. He let the train leave.
Yeah.
So after he took over the Harper's Ferry Armory, a train was coming in, and he said, "Okay, fine, you can leave." Train makes it to Baltimore, sends word, "Hey, extremist guy, insurrection, treason, just took over the Harper's Ferry Armory." And this is at the time, I'm pretty sure it was still Virginia. It wasn't West Virginia.
Yeah, it was. That's right.
Then they tell the feds, deploy the troops. If he didn't let that train leave, he would have been able to secure the city and secure the armory. And the other thing too is he was trying to foment a slave revolt. The slaves didn't want to revolt.
And they never showed up.
Yeah.
They're like, he asked Frederick Douglass can you do it? And Frederick Douglass was like, nah, chill. Like, we're all set.
I'd like to hear your guys' opinions. I've got on my Twitter banner, it's a picture of John Brown. You know that picture where he's got the Bible in one hand and a rifle in the other, except it's my face photoshopped on it. Love it. Should I take that down? Should I change that?
No.
A little too.
It's the problem with John Brown is it's just like, man, stopping slavery is legit. But he literally just killed innocent people. Like I guess the question is whether you view them as innocent. But there are stories of him walking up to.
He was also a moron. He killed one of his. The first person who died was on their side.
Yeah.
And was running back towards them, and they shot him.
One of the stories is that he walked up to a landowner, a slave owner. He believed. I'm saying this specifically because he walks up to a guy and just shoots him in the face, kills him. Yeah. And so it's like, okay, hold on there a minute, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like that's I don't know about all that. It's like when it comes to war, even Abraham Lincoln wasn't really trying to end slavery as much as they try to create that myth that he was. Mm-hmm. So abolitionists, a lot of really great people, a lot of really passionate people who fought in the Civil War because they knew it was a path to the end. But it's like, man, people like John Brown, that's tough. Mm-hmm. It's people want to look back and be like, he was an abolitionist. It's like, yeah, he was a murderous psychopath. Man.
But I loved teaching World War II and especially the Civil Rights Movement. We actually one of my favorites was the Little Rock Nine. Like I loved teaching about that, and we actually set up a situation where we had pen pals. I contacted Little Rock Central High School, which is like a prestigious high school today. It's actually paid for by the federal government, and my students had pen pals with theirs because we watched a documentary about what Little Rock Central High is like 50 years later. It's 60% black, 40% white, extremely segregated still, but self-segregated. Like black kids congregate towards black kids, white kids congregate towards white kids. So I really love doing the whole pen pal thing. Kind of like brought it to life. They're like, oh, we're talking to other kids in another state I've never been to and probably never will go to. I don't know anything about, but this is cool.
What's the Little Rock Nine?
The Little Rock Nine, where it was the first school that was forced to be desegregated in 1957. The Brown versus Board of Ed in 54 said you have to desegregate schools, and no Southern states were until Little Rock decided we're going to do this. And so 9 black kids signed up to go to school. A mob met them outside. The Arkansas National Guard did nothing to stop the mob, and so Eisenhower had to come in and basically send the 101st Airborne, literally the D-Day guys, to walk the children had to walk around school getting protected by these people.
We got riots in New York.
Oh, do we?
Yeah. So far, the videos I'm seeing are relatively light. They're smashing a cop car window, a windshield, sorry. And I'm seeing other people post about riots popping up, but so far the video I've just seen Because I got a notification. It was like, hey, riots are kicking off. And I'm like, okay, what's going on? And then I see a video. They're in Times Square jumping on a cop car. And
Times Square?
Yeah. But the video is not like people throwing bricks or anything. It's a guy jumping on a car and smashing the windshield.
I wonder how many people have actually seen the video.
Yo, but I'm watching, like, even a bunch of conservatives are like, yo, they straight up murdered that guy.
Yeah.
Like, cops were taking turns
for sure.
holding him and pounding on him.
For sure.
And so it's murder. Like, murders happen every day.
Yeah.
And it's like, and the bad people, the people that did it, are being held accountable. So what are we doing here?
Yeah, Hawk Newsom's in New York saying F peace, F peace. So they're basically just calling for violence.
Wow.
Union Square.
Like I said, it wouldn't even matter what was on the video. That's what I thought today, too. It's like, it really doesn't matter what's on the video. They're going to riot no matter
This is
what.
why I left the city. This is why we went outside of the city. We're not completely in the middle of nowhere, but we're middle of nowhere-ish. We get comments from people that are like, coming to Tim Pool's house was crazy. It's like pitch black. You go up this long, winding road. That's right. We're on top of a mountain. Because, New York's going to be... When the Summer of Love happened, there was a guy who called 911. He said, help, there's a fight breaking at my apartment. And the dispatcher said, sir, the city is under attack. What would you have us do? Yeah.
When was that?
2020.
Wow.
Yeah, so...
Yeah, cities are in a rough
Get
spot
some
right
chickens,
now.
get out of cities, but we're going to jump to Super Chat. So if you haven't already, would you kindly smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends, become a member at timcast.com. We got a massive library of members-only shows you can watch going all the way back the years of this show. And check it out. It supports our work and our cultural endeavors. We really do appreciate it. Let's read what y'all have to say in the Super Chats. All right. Let's see. Emily Kanata says, Turtle Rider for life. Are you going to talk about that story out of Duxbury?
Oh, we mentioned it earlier. It's a horrible story.
It's the mom that killed her three kids.
Oh, right.
It's like very few times do you write a story where it's actually like horrible. I didn't want to write it.
Did it just happen?
It just happened a couple days ago. And if you look at the pictures,
The youngest child just
died today.
Yeah.
And if you look at this woman's Facebook page, I mean, like the perfect family. Like, I love you, and it's horrible. It's absolutely horrible.
This is a really great super chat from Minotaure. Says, the Pelosi video is what you get when you hire the writers of Reno 911 to write your psyops. How's it go on? I dig it.
Yeah, kind of.
Here we go.
I like that.
Total Wildlife Management. This is at 801 says, Memphis protesters have blocked the old 55 Memphis bridge.
Wow.
So that was an hour and a half ago.
That was a while ago. Yeah.
We'll see where we go. We'll see where we are, man.
I assume that crosses the Mississippi. Must be a major bridge.
Probably.
Mr. Dysett says, Tim, I tried sharing with you on Twitter that the Memphis police chief was recruited from Atlanta, GA, and a supporter of BLM, which might explain the Friday release of body camera footage. They want it to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Raymond G. Stanley Jr. says, Tim, I had to do the crying game shower scene earlier. I was walking on the street. Some lady said I was handsome. Then another slapped my butt. Then a woman asked me out on a date. Oh, the humanity. There was this meme going around from this feminist group. It's a comic, and it was like, how would men like getting harassed or whatever? And it was a 4-panel comic where it's like a guy walking down the street, and a woman's like, hey, handsome, you're looking pretty good. You should smile more. And then he's like, thanks. Then the next one is like an office where the woman's like, hello, lovely gentleman. They're smiling. Then it was a woman being like, wow, you fixed that computer all by yourself? That's impressive. And he's like, thanks. And it's just like, do feminists just not understand guys at all?
Yes.
They think men would.
Yes.
The crazy thing to me is that the woman who wrote that was outright saying that if she fixed her computer and you went, wow, did you fix your computer by yourself? That's impressive.
She'd be offended.
That's an offensive thing to say to somebody.
See, for a while I was getting told like everyone should compliment men more because like they don't hear very many compliments. So if you say like, hey, I like your shirt, like they'll remember that for the next year.
Well, the guy
like,
commented, he's like, the hot chick in my high school told me that the color of my sweater made my eyes pop and my blue eyes, come out. I've worn the same color sweater for the rest of my life or whatever.
Yeah.
That's the ugly side.
I feel like
of
women are very
compliments.
free with themselves, like to compliment one another. I love your hair, I love your shoes, I love whatever. And like, I feel like that's not true for men amongst yourselves. Maybe you are. I don't want to.
Guys do the
assume,
opposite.
But
guys rag on each other.
that's true.
Yeah.
I try to compliment when it's genuine.
Yeah.
But the thing about if a woman compliments a guy is the guy can take it the wrong way and think that she wants to have sex with him. So you got to be real careful.
Yeah, but not if the woman's like, wow, did you fix the computer by yourself? That's impressive. The guy's not going to be like, wow.
If that guy's
some guys
like-
might. Yeah, I know.
I was like, but that's a him problem, right? Like the majority
yeah.
of men can see it in the context, right?
a confident man would.
I
wouldn't.
would
wouldn't
totally
mind being catcalled. I mean, it's like, obviously women would, imagine just a guy, I'm walking down the street, a bunch of women are like, oh, damn, you're looking fine. But like,
You're like, I feel pretty.
so what's up? What's your name? Like it would be so weird. It would
Right.
it'd be like, but I wouldn't
But what
mind
if it was like a big, fat, old, nasty woman in a wheelchair and she's like, come here and give me some of that.
And I would just like, I'd still be flattered. I mean,
Thank you for
I'd be like,
noticing.
thank you. I'd be like, that's very kind of you. Very kind
Or if it
of
was
you.
six
I still
dudes,
got it. Like,
if it was
I
like
still
six,
got it.
if it was
I
six,
still got it.
six big dudes are like, you look good. Like that's weird because they're bigger than you. There's a lot of them, so I think women do feel afraid a lot of times when they get yelled at.
Yeah, but
Yeah, I
but,
think it
but look,
depends on
look,
the
this comic
circumstances,
is not talking about overt harassment. Like a guy pulls up in a car and starts saying nasty things to a woman and just
Yeah.
like you got a big butt and that's stupid.
That's the thing,
But if
man.
like if there's that video 10 hours of walking through New York as a woman and there were literally men saying like good morning.
Yeah,
And they were
I
offended
know.
by that.
It's unreal.
It's like, okay, dude, if you're offended by good morning, we're lost.
Can't say
you know?
anything. Yeah.
I think that young women need a masculine source of strength in their life. Usually that's the father. If they don't have a father, that's why, a strong compliment can really help a human regardless of their gender. But things getting sexual is just so weird. I don't know how to.
sexual is a compliment. If a woman said sexual things about a man, like it would be complimentary. I would be flattered. I don't care how ugly you are. I'd still take it as a compliment.
It's cool the first time but like being,
Oh,
I
the
was in Hollywood for a while and I started to get overly sexualized. It was real. Like I just felt dirty and like a prostitute. I left. It gets old.
Wait,
All right,
West
let's read
Hollywood
some
or
more.
regular
We-
Hollywood.
What's that?
West Hollywood, or regular Hollywood.
Regular Hollywood.
All right, let's read this. We got Gustav Anderson who says, Ian, check out The Miracle of the Sun in Portugal, 1917. You might find it interesting. Ooh. Ginny says, 4 of the officers made bail. Okay.
Okay. Not the guy swinging.
Probably not the guy swinging, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
All right, let's see what we got here. Maris McMullen says, it's good to hear that Bocus is doing well. Unfortunately, none of us live forever. I'm a wood turner in Georgia who hand makes cremation urns. Is there someone I could get in contact with to give an urn for Bocus? I really do appreciate it, but it's okay. We're not going to need it. We won't need it because everyone's going to pray for Bocus.
Yeah, I've noticed with Bucko, he wants to live, and that's the key component, especially for a cat, but for anyone really. So I'm giving him the tools that I can to let his body do the work while he gets what he desires.
You know what I started doing? I started heating up his food, and he eats it more. Because I'm thinking about it, and I'm like, he yells at me for food. I put his kidney, he's got special kidney food on the plate, put it down, and then he looks at it, and then he sniffs it, and then he just like walks away. So I put it in the microwave, heat it up, mix it up a little bit, put it on the ground, he goes right at it.
Nice. I noticed if I eat a piece of meat, he wants it. Then I feed him his meat, he goes right for it. Also, if I read the
But you
ingredients,
can't give him any of that now.
No, just his phosphate meat.
His lack of phosphate.
Stuff without phosphates. Or if I read the ingredients on his food can and really pay attention to what's in it, he starts to get interested in it and wants it. Like they want what you want, cats.
Yeah, maybe he's like, hey, don't eat my
And some
food.
cats with kidney issues
Well-
experience nausea. So
Yeah.
part of it is just making it appetizing for him.
Yeah, we have these 2 different kinds of kidney food, and he goes back and forth. Like first he liked one, now he won't touch it, now he wants the other one.
I gave him the one with chicken and pork liver. Oh, I tasted it. I was like, I could survive off this, Bucko. He was like,
I
hell yeah.
gotta be honest. Like, when I heated up his kidney food, it smelled like canned corned beef hash. You ever have that, like Hormel or whatever?
Oh, yeah. I think so.
I like it. It's good.
was a little
stuff.
sweet.
I didn't eat the cat food.
I mean, but seriously, in a survival situation, man, that would keep you alive.
I have eaten cat food before. I have.
Do you have a cat? Do you have a pet?
I got a 5 and a 7-year-old want to get a pet. I was going to wait for the dog until they get old enough to walk them. But then I'm like, I've never had a cat before. Would you go cat with 2 kids like that age? I mean,
I got a cat when I was in the 3rd grade. He lived for 17 years. It was the best thing ever. I highly recommend cats for
Cats
children.
easy. They seem easy.
If you know
than
how to deal with
dogs.
them, there's this guy Jackson Galaxy who
Do
does
they
a
smell?
show. Well, this show called My Cat from Hell.
Yeah.
It's a TV show. You can watch those shows. He tells you everything you need to know about how to live with a cat, with their litter box, keeping it open to the air, with having shelves on the wall for them to jump on, to play with them, to kind of mimic the hunt before you feed them, which mimics the kill. There's a lot of ways, and they're very easy.
Cats are pretty independent and relative to dogs. I like dogs too. It's not that
Dogs
but
are work.
Dogs are work, and especially if you have kids in the house, they're gonna learn be able to clean out the litter box and feed the cat. When
But
you have a
dogs are
dog that needs the training, it can be I imagine a little
Dogs
harder.
are part of the American dream.
Yeah,
it's just
for
a weird
sure.
thing.
All right, let's read this one from Owl Knight. He says, the latest Project Veritas video was removed. That's right. James O'Keefe tweeting out that YouTube took down the Project Veritas video.
Oh, jeez.
That's crazy.
He went to Twitter first with it, which is the
Twitter,
right move.
it's still up 20 million views.
Yeah.
That's the way.
Yeah, it's like what are they trying to accomplish there?
My
People can
guess,
see it still.
My guess is that the people at Alphabet or the Google censors or whoever was doing this thought they're demonizing this guy, Jared. Is that his name, Jared? The dude that's like, don't.
Jared with an O or something with an O.
I don't want to mistake.
His last name is
Jordan.
Jordan Walker, right?
Jordan Walker.
Jordan, yeah.
That they might think that this is actually abusing towards this guy. Like it's getting to the point where people are hating on this guy and it's becoming abuse. But like, let's just stay focused on what potential
Stochastic
criminality and that Marco Rubio sent a letter to the CEO of Pfizer. Like, yo, explain this. Whatever happens with Jordan, let's be kind to the guy.
I understand not wanting to like, I don't know, put something that's just like degrading to a human being. I do think that like everything James O'Keefe did, like the way he conducts himself, seems fair. It's not like he himself is like. It's different if it's a video where he's walking up being like, "You're an idiot," like you know what I mean. That obviously is not what the video was.
Everybody follow at Timcast News on Twitter because we've got videos coming out of the, let's just say, burgeoning riot in New York City. So I say that because a lot of it is protest, but they smashed up a guy jumped on a police car, smashed the windshield. We've got footage of it with the police surrounding the vehicle. So it's getting to that point where it's pushing towards riot territory. So at Timcast News on Twitter, we got a reporter on the ground, I believe. Mm-hmm. It's Elad.
Yeah, he's out there.
He's on the ground.
Eliyahu.
Okay, yeah. All right. Rye Lyon says 25 states filed a lawsuit yesterday in federal court to stop the Biden administration from allowing your employer to invest your retirement savings in ESG. It may be the most important case this year. Wow. Okay.
That's cool. Vague, though. Invest in ESG. By that, do you mean invest in things that support BlackRock?
I think just companies that have like ESG scores. Who knows what that means exactly?
All right. David C. Cronk Sr. says it was a no-win scenario. No matter what Paul Pelosi did, he could spill his drink. That's alcohol abuse. I mean, it's weird. He wouldn't let that drink go. Yeah. He could have dropped the drink and then grabbed with his other hand. He didn't do it. He's like, no, not my drink. It reminds me of South Park when Jimbo, is that his name, is teaching the kids how to hunt. And then they're like, there's like a misfire. Like, whoa, that was dangerous. You almost spilled your beer.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like Gollum diving after the One Ring.
Yeah, Paul Pelosi diving for the drink. Jeez, man. All right. Ready to Rumble says it's clearly a hostage situation with an elderly man. How is this hard to understand?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Because what we assume or expect from a hostage situation is not what happened. It's as simple as that. It doesn't make sense that DePape would be standing with him while he called the police. Said, I don't want police, but are the Capitol Police there? Now I've got to get off the phone. It doesn't add up.
Yeah,
I don't know, man. I'm not saying I'm insinuating something happened. I'm just saying quite literally, this seems weird to me.
It's an example of madness in action.
He could be a crazy guy. DePape could just be a crazy guy. Crazy guy. It does seem like you're stretching to cover all of the weird things about it, but maybe that's the reality, huh? All right, what do we got here? Eddie F says, Tim, don't forget your rule, making the least amount of assumptions. This is all staged and they're all bad actors. Things got out of hand in the end because they involved drugs and alcohol. Yeah, that makes too many assumptions, though. You'd have to assume that they planned something and there were meetings beforehand. Mm-hmm. The simple solution is, I'm sorry, this is tough. So the Pelosi's had no security on their house this one night, and that's when the guy decided to come. Was he staking it out? I just got so many questions about this.
Once I saw him smashing the window with a hammer, David DePape, it set my mind at ease about what happened. I think
I did ask why there's no alarm.
Yeah,
have an alarm.
There's no. I mean, I guess he's home, so maybe he didn't set it. It as much as it kind of explains what happens. There are still questions. It's not definitive by any means.
It's just weird that he's that accessible. I can just go in Nancy Pelosi's house.
Right.
It doesn't make sense.
Or like Tim said, this is the one night there wasn't security.
No, we have armed security guards.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. There's no Capitol. He said there's no Capitol Police outside. He said usually there are Capitol Police outside the building protecting my wife.
But she was in D.C., right? So is he trying to say normally my house is heavily secured, but please come help me because tonight it's not?
Yeah, I don't know.
It doesn't.
I went to CPAC and I couldn't get near Josh Hawley. He's got good luck getting near him, you know. But I can just walk in Nancy Pelosi's house whenever I want. That's wild.
I was driving back from New York yesterday, or in the car, and I was just looking at houses as we were driving down the road, and the windows, I could see into their living room, I could see the TV, and I'm like, we live in such a luxurious society where you can have your freaking house glass windows leading into where you sleep at night, It's glass.
It's not true in every country. Yeah, yeah.
True. As a South African, it's the weirdest thing. It's you guys trust that?
David R says the dispatch call can be explained simply. He introduced himself as a Pelosi, and the dispatcher voted for Trump. Solves every question. I mean, hey, the cop more likely to be Republican. But no, I think the dispatcher was just a little, what's the right word without being mean?
RMV lady.
Slow on the uptake.
Cynical.
I don't think she follows national politics. That's fine.
No, I just mean like when he's like, there's a guy in my house who just came in and I have a problem. And she's like, well, call me back if anything happens. It's like, okay.
Is she not trained? Like, that's crazy.
Yeah. Wayne L says the times don't make sense. 911 call was at 2:25 a.m. Video of him breaking in is at 5:31 a.m. and body camera video footage is at 9:31 a.m.
But we know it wasn't at
Interesting.
9:31 in the morning. Like, that's not when the cop showed up.
No, but that's what I was talking about. As I saw that super chat earlier, and I was wondering why on all these things we don't see any particular time frames of exactly when this happened. There's no. Normally when something like this happens, you have an instance report of like all the time frames going down. But with this, we've never seen anything saying this happened this time, this happened this time, this happened this time, chronologically like listed. It hasn't happened yet. So
It is
why?
weird. It says 9:31 on the body camera footage, but it's certainly not 9:31. It's dark out.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's clearly not 9:31. The argument
PM?
that like the legacy media, I mean, there were like
UTC?
there
Yeah.
were like a bunch of publications that like sued to get this stuff released, and they said all of this has been read in pre-trial evidence hearings. So like theoretically, a report like that, Serge, would have come out then too, and
Yeah,
maybe they
you'd
just
think
didn't
so.
include in the lawsuit.
Would
very
UTC
weird.
make sense if it's 9? That would put it at like midnight or something though, wouldn't it? Or 1 a.m. 1:31? No, but the call was at 2 in the morning, so the police had to respond sometime after that, so around 3. So why did it say
that makes sense.
T0931?
UTC is that British? It's 9
Universal, yeah.
Yeah, so it's
Minus
5
5
hours ahead
of East Coast
of us. Yeah,
which means it would be 8 for Los Angeles. So that would put this at 1:31 a.m. But the phone call was made around 2 a.m. 2:25 a.m. So it's an hour later.
Yeah, so it doesn't make sense.
maybe
Unless
it's
like daylight
PM
savings.
with a 9 p.m.
We're not in daylight savings though. It's -5 right now. Daylight.
Yeah.
It's after March. It goes to -4, doesn't it?
God, I don't know. I heard they're thinking about getting rid of that daylight savings
Yeah.
time.
They
Should.
Always talk
It's
about
a
it every year.
disgrace.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, anyway, let's read some more super chats.
Yep.
All right. Franco Phillips says, Tim and friends, the reason that our government wants to abolish the police is so they can instill a Gestapo federal police system when the citizens beg for them back.
That is a very astute thing to point out. I agree that if we ever were to get rid of local police, you're left with federal police or private police, and you don't want those to run your life. Trust me. I've seen it in Chile. Just even when they were on my side, it was disconcerting to see federales on the corner with their guns and stuff.
I mean, you guys watch Walking Dead? I mean, that's basically what happens in a lawless society. It's like, you're going to get the Negans. You're going to get the saviors. Like, that's why that show's somewhat realistic. It's like, this is what happens when a society breaks down. The guy with the bat, with the barbed wire on it, who kills one person every time he comes to a new village, he's in charge now. Like, that's what you're going to get instead of the police. So think of it twice before you abolish them. Think about what comes next, because they never do.
Yeah. If you look at South Africa as well,
now.
we have like private security all over the country, and it's not necessarily a better system. I'll tell you that right now.
Was it worse?
I mean, I'd say it's worse because the thing is, it's private security. They hold you till they get to the police. And it's not exactly the same thing as like a police service that is like beholden to the law, et cetera, et cetera.
Will they just beat people up?
I wouldn't say it's like not like that, but they don't like if they did, there's no body cams on
It's
them.
like
There's
casino
nothing-
police bringing you in the back room to
Right.
get you counting cards.
Exactly. You can't hold them accountable to anything. So that's the thing. That's it's not like you said. It's not necessarily better. You get the Negan guy. I barely watched that series, but I know what you're talking about. I understand it's lawless. It's not the same. It's not a better system. Just because you abolish the police doesn't mean that bad guys stop. Doesn't mean that people aren't going to steal your stuff. Doesn't mean that people forget that. They don't think about that stuff.
The timestamp on the break-in footage is 5 a.m. So are these just clocks that are all set wrong? Is that what it is?
I mean, that's a possibility.
I don't know, man. It's weird. I mean, the issue I take with it is, sure, but once you start stacking up all these weird things, you are now looking at, it's like, you do not have, it's a Jenga tower full of holes. You know what I mean? It's not a strongly supported structure of this narrative when it's like all these pieces. You take out one piece and it's like timestamp 5 a.m. and you go, well,
The cameras could be off.
Yeah, and then it's like, okay, body camera footage 9 a.m. Well, I guess the body camera footage, then you pull out another one. Phone call, 2 a.m. Okay, none of the timestamps add up, putting a bunch of holes in the narrative. Then there's the phone call. Is this the police? Yeah, oops, it was a mistake. Do you need the police? I don't think so. But are the Capitol Police there? Why? There's so many holes, and the tower is about to fall
And I'm
over.
not wondering-
Whoever's making that next move, taking the whole
Did
thing
DePap
down.
come? He called the cops. Then DePap left and came back later with a hammer at 5 a.m. And then it set off an alarm, a silent alarm. And then the cops came out, and that's what we saw. I'm wondering. I don't know.
I have no idea.
At least these conversations are taking place.
Yeah.
You know, like CNN, the immediate thing is going to be like, this is somehow Trump's fault. Like that's somehow they will spin it.
Well, we got a good one here. Highlander Ultra says, red pilled my mom today. The News Guard rating for MSNBC and Obama sipping water at Flint, Michigan. If alcohol is at the coffee shops, a keto biscuit would be a good pairing. Myrtle Beach SC will have you. I'm telling you guys, get News Guard. And I know a lot of conservatives are like, I'm not supporting News Guard. And I'm like, no, hear me out. Use the tools you have to win your arguments. NewsGuard rates MSNBC as essentially fake news, as they do not adhere to journalistic standards. You can then tell your wine aunt, your uncles, your woke friends and family, and you don't get aggressive with them and say, you watch fake news. Look, I can prove it. You say, where did you hear that? You're not watching that conspiracy stuff. What MSNBC, is that what that is? The Rachel Maddow lady, yeah, she's like Lady Alex Jones or whatever. Mm-hmm. And then they're gonna be like, what? That's not true. Like, yeah, here, look, NewsGuard. Yeah, see, it says fake news. Mm-hmm. Is that what you're watching? And they'll go, oh, well, how do you respond to that?
But then won't Politico say that NewsGuard is in and of itself fake news?
No,
that's a right-wing thing.
But NewsGuard gives Politico a perfect score.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Who's really in control?
Yeah. So they're paying them off. Okay. They're like, okay.
That's Microsoft.
Look, we should have a perfect score, but NewsGuard wrongly dinged us for no reason because they're full of it.
What was the ding?
They said that we quoted Donald Trump and that Trump was wrong, therefore we were wrong. And we were like, the story we ran was Donald Trump says thing. It's a news thing that happened. Like, we should have fact checked him. And I said, we're not running an analysis on what Donald Trump said. We're reporting him having said that. And we only did it, I think, 5 times in the years, the couple of years the website's been up. Out of 4,000 articles, there were 5 instances. And they said, that warrants you being irresponsible news producers.
Ethical question. As you start your fact-checking service with your charity foundation, are you going to fact-check yourself?
Timcast?
Yeah.
That's one of the principal purposes. So the idea is to not have them work in the same place or be in communication, but then to grab the articles, go through them, and then ding them. But here's my attitude. The fact-checking plan that we have is we randomly sample 100 articles from the past 3 months or something like that. We then do a check for journalistic ethics, minimizing harm, facts, things like that. If they violate any ethic, we create a spreadsheet showing the X, explaining the violation, and then giving them a score X out of 100. The New York Times, I think, would probably end up at like a 70 out of 100. And we'd have 30 articles saying, like, here's why we believe this violated standard ethics. Mm-hmm. However, if the New York Times then goes in and addresses that and removes the violation, we will then change it to a check and say, a correction has been made. The New York Times corrected this and removed the violation and improved their score.
So you leave a trail of the error and the correction all in the system?
The idea would be like you can see everything they've done. So that would mean for Timcast, well, absolutely, they should be checking us too. Because then the benefit is when they come and say we randomly sampled 100 articles and we found, 35 were violating these ethics, that's a low score. We'd be like, we'll have our team go in and correct each and every one of these things.
I like it. We need more people that investigate themselves and find something wrong.
Mm-hmm. But the idea is to create, it's an independent. They're not going to work in the newsroom with the news team. They're going to be outside.
Yeah.
So we will have active fact checkers, double fact checking our articles. We will then use that to correct any mistakes we make from the fact checkers. And then we will create a browser extension that will do the exact same thing for every other outlet. It takes a long time. It'll be very difficult.
But what if you could use AI? Something like a chat GPT?
No, it's not so easy. You like how do you AI minimize harm? That's tough. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So when CNN said this guy made a meme, we will reveal his identity unless he stops making memes, we'd be like X. I mean, that warrants a failing grade. I don't know, man. There's also I'm wondering if we give a 0 out of 100 to any overt and egregious acts of evil, like that CNN thing. Like, this is not a credible news agency. They have used their weight on more than one occasion to threaten people's lives, like livelihoods. Sorry.
Andrew Kaczynski one with the WWE. That one?
Yep.
Oh yeah, I know.
And there were other instances too, and going to that old lady's house who was like on Facebook. Right. Those are such egregious violations of journalistic standards.
Ethics, that's an ethics thing.
James O'Keefe going to an executive's house is like, and asking him questions. It's like,
but that's what I mean about holding the power. Like the media does not go after the powerful; they go after the powerless.
Yep.
And when you go after the powerful, that is when you get in trouble. And it's kind of like what I do. I mean, that's my whole business model: is going after the powerful, and you see what happens when they do. Mm-hmm. They don't like that.
All right. John McGee says, how many people know who the president pro tempore of the Senate is or what the person's role is? Where do they fall in the presidential line of succession? How about who is the president of the Senate? That's all just so very funny, isn't it?
I don't know either of those things.
I don't.
So who is currently president pro tempore? It's not still Grassley after this.
Is that the same thing as?
I think it's Grassley.
It
Still
is
Grassley?
not
Is
this- Could be
Grassley.
wrong.
I'm looking at it now.
is
Anyone
it?
else? Any other guesses? It is.
It was Grassley.
Was. Now it's Patty Murray.
Oh.
Since January 3rd, 2023.
Right. That's what I was asking because
Yeah,
it
yeah.
just changed. It was Grassley
It's
before.
this thing where like I use that term when I cover Grassley enough, but like now that we've switched over and everyone's shifted, like catch me again in 4 months. I probably can't answer all of them, but you get better. But again, this is like my job. Like I get to read and study this all the time, right?
When I was watching a bunch of football, I
fourth
knew
in
all the
line for the
players.
presidency, I'm pretty sure.
Okay. When I was like playing a lot of Madden 2003, back in the day, I was learning all the players.
Yeah.
I knew all their names. I knew their speeds. I knew how their stats.
Yeah.
How many
For a little while-
touchdowns they threw.
Yeah, I was covering when every state, like for a while, starting like November 30th, a bunch of states started banning TikTok on like government platforms and on government networks and stuff. And so I found this very interesting and covered it intensely for the site. And so at one point I was like listing, I could name every governor of like all of these states who had done this because I was using that information so readily. Like if you're a student in your 11th grade history class, I'm sure they're all like ready to explain what everything in the Constitution is. It's just how often are you accessing this information? How often do you have
Right.
to use it?
And the positions change. Just like football, if you're out of it for 5 years, there's new players on
Yeah,
the
if
team.
you're not regularly teaching history, you're not going to remember. I mean, you're going to forget 95% of what I taught you. Like, I would never
everything.
expect my students to remember. Like, remember I taught you this lesson? Unless you're actively involved in it every day, there's only so much information your brain can retain.
I call it mental bandwidth. I've heard that from someone else. But when people ask me, hey, do you want to do this? Instead of saying I can't, I just say I don't have the mental bandwidth for it.
Yeah, I use that expression too. I don't have the bandwidth for this. Like, I think about that all the time with people who are working, not in the news industry and have children and have, things going on in their life. Like, I've had people say to me like, oh, I just feel like I haven't checked the news in weeks, and they probably haven't, but not because they're bad people, because they have other things, other demands on their time, right? Like, we have to have grace for people who don't have the time to look at the news all the time. That's why I feel like what we get to do with Timcast is cool, because it's like, hey, if you have 5 minutes to scroll through Twitter or to check our website, like, here are some stuff that like would be good, that might affect your life, that would be good for you to know going forward. Like, you don't have to be an expert all the time.
And that's why we say become a member at timcast.com, so we can do a lot more of that. Let's grab we got a couple more good super chats here. Cameron Peter says, Project Veritas has posted that Jordan Walker is still an active employee, proving he wasn't a contractor. Very interesting. And then last one right here. This is great. Viper says, hey, just want to thank you, Tim and Luke. You guys gave me the inspiration to eat better, and I'm already seeing results. You guys are doing a great job with info. You know what I find really helps is actually a scale. So when, not this past November, but the November before, the October actually, before I got COVID, I was about 200 pounds, and I didn't care. Yeah, I literally just didn't care. And I ate what I felt like eating and just did what I felt like doing. And then one day I just stopped eating sugar. And then decided, I'm going to cut all those sugars out. And then started losing weight really quickly. Checked the scale abruptly, like after a week or two, and I was like, oh, damn, I was down like 5 pounds. Then the next day I take the scale, I'm down again. And then every day I go down. What happens is when I get back on the scale and I start going up, I'm like, uh-oh. And then it makes me think about it all day. That's just me. I don't know if it works for anybody else. But then I'm like, whoop, I ate that Pizookie over at BJ's Brewhouse, and now I'm feeling it. Those are so good, though. Have you guys ever been there?
No.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I've been there.
It's a cookie baked into a little pan with ice cream, big ice cream on top.
I'm not
And
addicted to sugar right now.
The
Don't make
Oreo
me.
one has got Oreo cream filling on top.
Yeah.
You weighed
Yeah.
200 pounds?
Yeah,
I couldn't
yeah.
imagine that.
Yeah.
I can't
look
tell.
at the videos. Look
Yeah.
at watch the show.
You said that you had an outro at the end of your videos, and at one point you came in here like, we got to reshoot that. I don't look like that anymore.
Well, no. People commented. Someone super chatted your outro video is you're fatter. You can tell you lost weight.
Dude,
And I
it's
was
the
like,
John Stossel thumbnail of your interview with
Oh,
him from
right,
like a
yeah.
year ago. That's
Yeah.
the most obvious. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
round, puffy compared to what you are now.
I
which
feel like-
I can't tell it seeing you every day.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, you said that once, like, oh, yeah, I was 200 pounds. And I remember being like, what? Really?
Oh, yeah.
Because, like, the other thing is, like, you also implemented, like, doing something you love, skating and being active.
Well,
all the time.
I was skating then too.
Yeah, but it's
we
like-
were getting hibachi, and I'd have a big bowl of rice.
Yeah, but like making several small changes, like they are difficult at first, but they actually do pay off over time. And I think you are, someone who did that, right? You cut sugar first.
Dude,
You
and
didn't-
I
Luke-
also think I accidentally stopped eating a lot. I just kind of
That's
happened.
good. That fasting thing's key. Luke,
Yeah.
I don't.
No, go.
Well, Luke, if you guys saw, I think it was on his Instagram, a picture of him with the eggs, being like acting like a cubano with his cocaine, but he looks ripped, dude. He's got the shirt on. I'm like, does he have that fake bodysuit on? That's Luke's chest. And then I got real emasculated. I was like, I got to start working out, man.
He keeps trying to get you to work out with the guy.
He's
won't
a
do it.
beast, dude. He went full beast mode in like 2 months. He got all this muscle definition. Is looking
He's
good.
been having the trainer come and do the work with him.
Yeah.
All right, everybody, if you haven't already, would you kindly smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends, cut out the sugars, start eating healthy, start exercising. You'll really appreciate it because I can't even begin to explain. First, I would say find a personal trainer, a nutritionist, or whatever you can, or start researching it, find out what makes sense for you because not everybody's the same. But I got to tell you this. When you get in shape, you'll all of a sudden just feel so good, and it's really hard to describe. When you are out of shape, you don't realize you feel bad. And then like, once I cut out the garbage, it feels like I wake up in the morning like a surge of lightning. Just like, I used to wake up like, ugh, now I wake up like, oh yeah. And I can tell when I eat garbage, cause like, I'm not telling people to be monks, you know? I had a Pizookie, okay? Cookie with ice cream all over it. But I mostly cut it out, and I make it really like a rare treat. Although the past week, I was just like, I had it like 3 days in a row because I was feeling miserable. But I tell you this, I learned my lesson because I wake up in the morning like, I feel miserable. And then I'm like, okay. And then I had tuna salad yesterday. Only thing I ate, tuna salad with peppers. Allison cooked it. It was fantastic. And the next day I woke up feeling like I could punch through a brick wall. It was incredible. So do right by yourself. Become a member at timcast.com if you want to support our work, our journalists, the cultural endeavors, the fact-checking stuff. It all takes time, but we are working on all this stuff. The cafe is currently under design and production. We own the building. It is happening. Now we have to do construction. I don't know how long it could take, but it is a relatively new project. So you can follow the show at Timcast IRL. You can follow me personally at Timcast. Turtle Boy, you want to shout anything out?
Yeah, just shout out to all the turtle riders. I see your turtle emojis in the comments. Thanks for showing up. If anybody wants to follow me, I'm at Dr. Turtleboy, DOCTOR Turtleboy, because if Jill Biden's a doctor, I'm definitely a doctor. And our website is tbdailynews.com. Thank you for having me. It's a real pleasure being here.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a blast.
I'm Hannah Claire. I'm a writer for Timcast.com. You should follow Timcast News. I know Tim already said it, but we have some on-the-ground footage going up from New York tonight. At Timcast News on Twitter.
There you go.
I'm being coached on how to talk about social media.
I was doing the at symbol with my hand.
We got it. We could do charades. It's okay.
We should. That's fun.
Yeah, so at Timcast News on Twitter, definitely go there, especially tonight. You can follow me on Instagram at hannahclaire.b, and you can follow me on Twitter at hcbrimlow. Yeah, guys, thanks so much.
I'm at Ian Crossland. Anywhere you want to find me, it's probably going to be me. Check for the long hair. And you take the risk. If there's something you want to do it. If you want to make a company right now, you start that company.
Are we documenting the Bocus?
Yeah, we did. We have a bunch of good early documentary stuff. I want to do an interview with the doctor who's super cool. Hospital, Hopewell Animal Hospital. Thank you guys so much for everything you've done so far. You've been just amazing to Bucko, to me, the staff. You guys are fantastic. I'm looking forward.
I think it's actually really interesting because this is experimental, and if it works, we have documented this process. This could be. Really
it could lead to this process becoming cheaper, more affordable.
Yeah.
Kidney failure could be a thing of the past for these animals. This is one of the leading causes of death for dogs and cats. So that could be to the point where we could eradicate that kind of thing. You look at people healing the blind, healing deaf people are able to hear now, healing spinal cord injuries with graphene insertions. I mean, we are on the precipice of magic in real time. So take the risk, like I did, taking that cat for 10 hours, and I'd do it all again 50 more times, and you'll be amazed at the results. Thank you.
And I am at Serge.com. I hope Elad stays safe on the ground there in New York. That's who's reporting, I imagine, right?
Yeah, it's the lad.
Okay, and I hope you guys have a good weekend. It'd be good to be back next week. I'm at Serge.com everywhere, Twitter, Instagram. Follow me wherever you want to see me. It was a good show. Yeah.
All right. Thanks for hanging out, everybody. I hope you enjoy the weekend. We'll be back with clips throughout tomorrow and Sunday. We have clips from all throughout the week. You can check out more content at timcast.com, and then we'll see you all again Monday.
Cheers, dudes.